Black Widow takes a predicted nosedive, but was Space Jam 2 really that good? That and a whole lot more this morning on Midnight's Edge in the Morning. Good morning, campers. Rise and shine. It's time for Midnight's Edge in the Morning. It's Monday morning. Welcome. The weekend kind of went as everybody predicted, but we're going to get into all that. First and foremost, let's welcome my partner in crime, the boss man himself, Andre. How you doing?
I'm good, thank you. Greetings, everyone. Hope you all had a wonderful weekend and are all good and ready for more Blur days to come.
Indeed. I mean, well, we're kind of getting on the other end of it, aren't we? I mean, the box office is almost back to normal. Almost.
Yeah, almost. Depending on how this movie was faring, I think that they would say now we're back or now we're not back, depending on exactly what kind of excuse was needed to cover for it.
And I think we'll get into an excuse, but it's not going to be the one they're using. I think there is a reason why this movie didn't play out so well, and I don't think it has anything to do with the quality of the film so much as how they launched it, and I think we'll definitely get into that. But as we get into that, somebody who will have a lot to say about it is the one, the only Culture Casino. How you doing, brother?
Oh, I'm doing fantastic. And yeah, no, this did go exactly as we expected it to go, Tom. We talked about it for a couple of weeks, and when we were going through it on Tuesday, we saw this coming. So I'm very excited to talk about it. Let's just put it in those terms.
Absolutely. And as 6 points out here, our lovely wrench. Holy shit. More importantly, Culture's hair is here.
It is. It's here.
And that little laugh you hear, of course, is our one and only Mexican Iron Man himself. Mike, how you doing, man?
Very well.
Southern Mexican Iron Man now.
Yes, as I like to put it, newly minted Southern gentleman and Mexican Iron Man.
I say, welcome to the show, son.
Thanks, gentlemen. Thanks, Andre. That was perfect. How did you say that again? Southern. Wait, what?
Southern gentleman.
Yes, I like that. Yes. Thanks to Culture Casino created this here. I have my my transition from California to the South is now complete. Culture took it upon himself to put together the new avatar to previewing today on Midnight. Southern gentleman, Mexican Iron Man with his bucket of Southern chicken.
If you send it to me, we'll have it premiere today for members as well.
I say, son, that'll even almost synergize what we're talking about today. I say, if you get my drift. How's my foghorn leghorn?
I love it.
Good. Yeah, it's really good. Spot on.
Now, son, that ain't a chicken hawk. All right. Good morning, kids. That's right. Space Jam launched into orbit this weekend. We'll get into that, and we'll also get into how badly Black Widow plummeted to Earth, as we will put it. But we got to say hello to people in the chat. We got some super chats.
Yeah, we do, and we have another breaking story here as well. It's related to Black Widow, so just familiar. I'm going to put it in the private chat so that you can familiarize yourself a little bit with it. Well, I go through the super chats because our good friend, well, actually, we have had nothing to do with him, but Scott Mendelson over at Forbes is at it again, taking one for the Black Widow team. So, good times.
It's going to be an interesting morning here as we get into the topics at hand, and I got my itchy trigger finger over top of Walton here, so let's get ready.
Yes, let's get ready. But before we get ready with that,
let's say hello.
Let us say hello to everyone in the chat. We have loads of people here. We have Olaf van Hess here. We, of course, have Natasha, our trusted wrench. Thundercats. Oh, Tom, you have to do that. I can't do those things.
Thundercats. Oh, how was that?
I don't even know how I've never actually seen Thundercats.
Thundercats.
Fix that now.
Thundercats is like He-Man with cats.
Yeah, I know, and I do like my cats, but there are limits. So, and I think,
and you honestly, you would probably compare Moth. What is his name? Whatever.
Mothra. I know that with no. Is it Mumra? I think it was.
Yes, Mumra with what's his face from Conan? Yeah.
Yeah, well, probably Tothamon or Thulsa Doom.
Yeah, there's a lot of them that like you definitely dig it. Like the OG series looks great. It was animated by Rankin and Bass, if I remember right.
Oh, really? Oh, nice.
Yeah, it was really good quality, and the toys were decent too.
Yeah, the toys were awesome. Yeah.
My childhood passed me by, and I never saw Thundercats then. It wasn't on any channel that I ever saw. So we didn't have it.
I can't believe I almost called him Mothra. What the fuck, Tom? Wake up! Actually, I only got a couple hours sleep because Kitty.
Yeah, even I caught that. That like, wait, Mothra. That doesn't sound right.
No, I was thinking wrong genre there. But let's say hello to some people in the chat. We got Sander Hammerslag with us. How you doing, buddy? We got Silver Nova hanging in there. Some of our members here. We're always glad to see you here. We got Broken Prophet. Oh yeah, Shatara.
We have some Norwegians here
yes.
in Seafood and Null representing.
We have Olaf here. Go ahead.
Yeah, then we have Seafood Null representing Norway, or another representative, I should say. We have Duck Nation saying hello, guys.
Quack.
And Naked Fame says, hey, Andre, Culture, Mikey. Yes.
Welcome.
Yeah, and Tom, I'm sure you meant that
as well. Like
and Film Lounge is here.
3 out of 4 ain't bad,
I believe. Yeah. Oh, we have Cosmic Squirrel, Silver Nova, Pete Den Cat, Mr. Tickle Trunk, and many, many others.
So
and also the moment that, of course, that I said that Scott Mendelson is out doing a repair job or a hit
That's
piece
an interesting story.
Piece.
I don't know. It's an interesting one. It kind of goes with a lot of things I've been saying all this time. Like I can't believe certain people are keeping quiet on certain things, but we'll see here what's going on.
Yeah, well, they were only quiet for so long, weren't they?
Yeah. Well, where do we want to start unpacking this?
We want to start with a couple of the super chats.
Let's do that first. Yes.
Yes. Dark King says, "I want Orson Welles, Solomon Kane." That's that would be something. Solomon Kane.
There's peas everywhere.
That would be something. And then we have, let's see when we can bring it up on screen. Not quite yet. So these are still the ones that I can't bring up on screen. Film Lars says for 200 Danish krona. Whoa, tusen takk. Hail Midnight's Edge. Happy summer vacation. I'm watching Jaws. Far away from the beach. What's your favorite summer movie?
Oh, yes. Jaws is a great one.
Yeah, what's all your favorite summer movies? Okay, so then Jaws. Is that your answer, Tom?
Since it's one of my favorite movies, if not my favorite movie, I guess I'll have to agree with that. So if I have to pick another one, I guess Independence Day, maybe.
Oh, that was mine.
Oh, God damn it. I'm sorry, Mike.
It's okay. I'll come up with another one. Okay, Culture, you're up.
A New Hope.
Oh, there you go. Mike, pick Empire.
Now I don't have one.
What did we do? Empire.
Huh?
Okay.
Oh,
Empire or Raiders?
Yeah, I'm going to go Raiders of the Lost Ark.
Okay, and as for me, like a summer movie, with that, I don't necessarily mean blockbusters.
Yeah, because to you wouldn't have grown up with a lot of the same quote unquote summer movies we probably would. Because as you know, like out there listening, distribution was way different back in the day. It wasn't day and date worldwide like it is now.
Yeah, a movie that American movie that you all would have known that I remember thinking, like looking at, thinking, "Whoa, this is summer. This is New York, hot as hell, New York," and this would have been around the time when I was in America for the first time, and I was in New York just for a few days before we moved further down to Virginia and stuff, and it was so hot as hell I thought I was dying. It was that warm. So really warm New York, Empire State Building, all of those things. So what I associate with that is Die Hard with a Vengeance. You say summer movie, that's like what comes to me.
You know, that actually is a great fucking answer, because I remember going to see that opening weekend. Oh my God, yes. And like you said, just with the opening of the Summer in the City by Love and Spoonful and stuff, just set the mood.
Yeah, exactly. So that's my answer.
That is actually like one of my guilty pleasures. Like, I love Die Hard with a Vengeance. There's times where I almost argue that might be better than the first movie. If you didn't need the first movie for that one to exist.
No.
Yeah, so Die Hard gives you the perfect Christmas and winter movie as well as the perfect summer movie.
Exactly. And then, I mean, I know a lot of people love Die Hard too. I was never a big fan of it. I like it, but it's like I've seen this movie already. It's called Die Hard. It's like, even John McClane says in the movie, how can the same thing happen to the same guy on the same day twice?
Yeah. And moving on from there, says, hi, gents. Hello, everyone. Well, hello to you. It was a pleasure being on stream with you with Robert Meyer Burnett here on Saturday. At least it was my Saturday. To everyone else, it was Friday on midnight.
That was an amazing show.
Fractal Jack, though, says the truth here. Jaws was technically the first summer blockbuster. That is true. Yeah. Before that, Christmas time used to be the big release time. And I would have picked TMNT, folks, but that came out in the spring. It actually came out in March. And Terminator 2 was another good choice, too. I remember the summer that came out. Other one I would think of probably would be Batman. Holy shit, did that, swallow the summer of 89. Holy 89. Cow.
Yeah, in fact, that it punished another movie that you like, too.
A lot of movies, actually.
Yeah, that one was like, you didn't want to release that summer. The 89 was ridiculous. That film was everywhere. Man, couldn't get away from it. And everywhere, guys. You had it at every fast food restaurant that could partnership with them. You had, of course, you had all the toys. You had tie-ins.
Everybody had a shirt. Everybody had a fucking shirt.
But you had tie-ins to everything. I mean, and everybody's cars were plastered with the bumper stickers and the stickers, and and then the bat signal stuff started to come out, and then but I think went bananas for the whole summer.
Oh yeah, but that movie killed everything that year. Everything from Ghostbusters 2 didn't do nearly as well as it could have. What was the other one it really killed? UHF it just buried. There's a few other movies that just tons of them. Indiana Jones was like the only one that really came up against it that had any chance. It seemed like. But anyhow, we have a lot to get into, Andre, so let's get through these super chats.
Yes, let's continue with that. Rog H also sent us a thumbs up super sticker, so thanks for that. STR Red Wolf says, hail Andre, Tom, Mike, and Culture Casino. Oh, I can bring this one up on screen. Let's hope this Monday will be kind to Tom's PC.
So far, so good.
Too late for that.
Actually, you're right. We did have an issue.
Today's delay wasn't really because of that. It was like other things happening instead, because everything happens all at once. But yeah. And then Gundam Warrior was about to say something.
Beverly Hills Cop came out in December.
Yeah. Yep. And then Gundam Warrior 1 says, hashtag Kevin Smith lied, Orko died. An update from Clownfish TV.
Yeah, we heard that.
Yeah, exactly. That would explain why Orko appeared to have gotten a female makeover in some of those pictures we saw. That apparently wasn't Orko. Probably it was Riel.
That's what I was just thinking, yeah.
Yeah.
Someone in Hollywood lies? Unbelievable.
Right? Yeah. And good afternoon, Jesse. Glad you could get up. He says he just got up.
Yeah, and then we have, let's see what more I can bring up on screen. Well, I can't bring up any screen here. Amazing. We have it here behind the scenes. Stephen Otten says, hail Andre, Tom, Southern Mexican Iron Man, culture, wrenches, and sauce jam over the week. Didn't. So
is Andre cutting out just for me, or
a little bit? Yeah.
You're gonna have to redo that, Andre. You cut out like a.
Oh, okay, perfect. Stephen Otten said, "Hail Andre, Tom, Southern Mexican Iron Man, culture, wrenches, and chat. Saw Space Jam over the weekend. Didn't hate it, but certainly didn't love it." Was that clear?
Yeah. And boy, you just handed Warner Brothers a hell of a Hallmark card.
Yeah, you did, and we'll get into Space Jam as we go along. But before then,
because that's like the best.
Couple of more super chats, then Black Widow, and then Space Jam, and then we're gonna have fun.
Yeah, what's up, Doc?
Yeah. Like a Bill said for $4.99. Hey, Midnight's Edge crew. Thoughts on Chris Judge as Black Panther?
Chris Judge. Let me see who that is.
Is he not the guy that's stuck in Stargate or something?
Oh, yeah, he's from Stargate. He's a tad on the old side. Not too old, but I could see him as another character in the universe for sure, but I don't know about his Black Panther. I think, and this is just my opinion on this, though, I just think they should just let the character go for a while, and not recast him within the universe, which I think they've already said they weren't going to. And they don't even have to make him die. Like, my thing is like, you just have him be in the background doing all the, the king stuff that he would be doing since his dad's gone now, and that's technically his responsibility, and that would give Shuri or whoever else takes over the mantle a reason too, is because T'Challa's too busy taking care of diplomatic things. And you can even use like footage from the earlier films like Civil War and stuff where he's like doing news conferences and stuff. Just have it in the background and stuff. Yeah.
Especially after they open the borders, because in so doing,
exactly.
they will be letting in all the problems everyone else has. So then Wakanda will no longer be the dream country it once was.
So yeah, I mean, I think that's the best course of action. But I mean, otherwise, I have nothing against the actor. I just, not quite sure. I can see him as the actor. How about you guys?
And I agree. I don't have anything particularly against him or anything like that. I just think like you retire the character for a while. You give it a respectful break of like that good 5-10 years or something.
Exactly.
Having T'Challa just operate in the background, and so yeah, that's how you do that, I would say.
Yeah, I agree with that. Or at least that's what I just said. So yeah, how about you, Mike?
I agree with you completely. Can't add anything to it, brother. You guys said perfect.
Culture, you guys covered it. You covered it. Yeah.
All right.
And then just says Ghostbusters for some reason.
That would be a summer movie.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Of course.
Ghostbusters and Gremlins opened on the same day. Gremlins would have been possible, but see, Gremlins I associate more with Christmas, but Ghostbusters, yeah, that's a great summer movie. And as I said before, Beverly Hills Cop would have been a choice of mine too, because it does capture that summer feel. But it came out in December. Most people forget that. It came out late in '84, and it's actually the highest grossing film of that year because it played well into '85. But 32 Flavors of Nick Weiser says, I love how theaters blame D+ for its second weekend performance. It's funny you bring that up, Nick, because we're going to get into that.
Ooh,
so stay tuned.
We have a couple of
more super chats though.
Polaris Sucks says, thanks for the continued high quality content. Oh, thank you so much. Yeah. And Mag says for $5, Hail Midnight's Edge. We'll be mostly listening and chatting occasionally, traveling home from Long Island, visiting someone.
You in Long Island?
Get into today's topics. Yes, just make sure that you don't chat and drive at the same time, and it's all good.
You in the car?
So if you're on the bus or someone else is driving, then by all means. But
yeah, don't be driving and texting.
Just take care of yourself.
Don't worry about wrenching today. We've got plenty of help here today. So
yeah.
Red Monarch. Red Monarch says, howdy, gents. Hated Widow and LMFAO at Space Toe Jam. There's a lot in that, just for that little bit. And you're not wrong, sir, I guess. I mean, obviously it's your opinion, but Widow could have been better. And oh my God, wait till I get into Space Jam. Mr. Tickle Trunk also had a super chat for us, Andre.
Yes, and he says, for $5 Canadian, thank you so much. Recasting Black Panther was a must for money, but anyone else think recasting so soon is going to hurt them in the long run because of blowback? Yeah, I think so. I really think so. I think that I don't think you can do it. The first iteration was too important that you can get away with it so easily.
Well, and it's a little different than recasting, like, what's his face is the Hulk or Don Cheadle and stuff. Like, yeah, I mean, those had to do with disputes that had nothing to do with any, like, this is somebody passed away, and it was unexpected, and these things happen, and sometimes the best course of action is to just let it go for a while, like I said. But again, we don't know what they're going to do. They say one thing and always do another anyway. So
yeah, we'll see. And also Mags is on the train, so it's
okay. Good.
Yeah, all good then. With that, let us get into the main stories here. And Tom, you prepare the articles. We've got to.
Let's start with this. Here. Why not this? Yes. If you guys remember, last week, this says dated July 11th, which was last Oh, that was last Sunday. So last Monday, a week from today, we covered this, I believe.
Yeah.
Black Widow somehow just magically proves that Disney.
That was when Southern Gentleman, Mexican Ironman had his epic piece about how there was something fishy about these numbers.
I say, he was smelling fish.
Yes, he was. Yes, he does, and yes, he did.
But yeah, so this title says a lot here. It says Black Widow proves beyond a shadow of a doubt. I say it proves that I'm just a Southern chicken. That Disney's theaters plus paid. You get into that voice, you can't get out. It's tough.
Please get out.
Please get out.
I'm sorry. I'm trying here. It's like all of a sudden I keep going back into it. Streaming strategy works, says this analogist from Jeremy Fooster. We covered this along with several other channels covered this. And like Andre said, Mike and a lot of us are like, this is bullshit. One movie out of what, 4 movies they've done this to? No. And yes, it's a rooster. I'm sorry. Yes, I apologize. I'll say I apologize. Pardon me. So yeah, this whole thing with, is it really a success? Because granted, $60 million is nothing to sneeze at, especially when it's going right into Disney's pocket. Like, that is a big, nice chunk sum. In fact, one may even argue that I'm sure if that number is correct, they brought more home from the Disney Plus side of things than they did in the actual theatrical side of things, because they made $80 million in the box office, and chances are they only got about 60 to 70% of that, because I don't know how the theaters are working out with them now that they're doing this day and date. And that'll also feed into the story that Nick Weiser was talking about and a few other things we're going to get into. So yeah, we called this out last week. We're like, this does not compute. You don't have enough evidence to back up your claim. We've only had 4 or 5 major movies that Disney has dropped on D Plus and in theaters. And as far as we can tell, none of them have been successful except for this.
Yeah,
ahead,
your 4 Premier Access titles are Mulan, which was September 4 of 2020. Raya and the Last Dragon, which was March 5th of 2021. Cruella, which was May 28th of 2021, which will be available for free on Disney Plus on the 27th of August, by the way. And Black Widow on July 9th. Those are your 4.
All right. And the only of all of those 4, only one has technically been successful. And even that is debatable at this point. Because as we move on here, it's funny, we see a headline like that, right? And then let me make sure I get the right headline.
Yeah, and this one then is from last week, and we all called There's
BS.
Something rotten in the state of Denmark. That's what we called on it. And I do not mean that as offense to anyone Danish. That's just like a Shakespeare reference.
Danishes. I'm talking about the donuts. Anyway, then all of a sudden this morning, I wake up to this headline. Black Widow. Theater owners blast Disney day and date strategy for undermining Marvel picks box office and future revenues. Gee, what the fuck does that sound like?
Wait, Tom, you need the sound effect. Dun, dun, dun!
Oh, actually, get ready for this one, folks.
I fucking knew it! Oh!
What did I say, guys? What did all of us say? They killed any ancillary sales to this film. Nobody else is going to buy it. Nobody else is going to the theater to see it now. You have literally killed the momentum of a movie, period. Doesn't have nothing to do with word of mouth. Fuck word of mouth. Because there's a lot of people who will go see a Marvel movie, don't give a shit what you say. Right? They fucked this movie. Now, Andre, I'm so curious to hear what your reaction to all this is. And I want to thank the 1,200 people that are watching, too. Please hit that like button, and we appreciate that if you can. Or hit the dislike button if you don't like my voice. That's fine.
Yeah, but if you're going to hit dislike, then leave us a comment and tell us why. So, yeah. But with that, for one thing, it's not really a tremendous surprise because this direct-to-streaming or simultaneous streaming and box office revenue thing, it's, of course, if you in a situation where everyone is completely locked down, you can't go to theaters anyway, It is obviously fantastic, certainly for people that want to see the movie. But here's like the thing: when you do this, you not only undermine the theaters, and I will say many places in Northern Europe, even here in Norway, you have had multiple theater chains that have actually refused to show Black Widow for that very reason, that it's on streaming at the same time. So they argue, why the hell should we waste precious screens that we could show on something else? We have local movies and local releases that those screens can be used for, right, instead of putting something in a theater that they're going to get less on because people will be watching from home.
And from an accounting and cost perspective, if let's say you're a business owner, you have or regional, you own some regional theaters, or you're just a manager for one of the corporations, you've got labor costs getting ready for people to show up. You got that you have to schedule. You can't, you got to schedule people in advance to work. You've got to schedule. You've got to have people to clean the theaters in between showings. So you've got labor. It's not just you hit click and the thing goes. I mean, there's labor costs involved. And other, logistical concerns that you got to think about. I mean, you're talking about using someone's asset or not. When you're running these assets, these are all leases. These leases are incredibly expensive. Theater leases are some of the most incredibly expensive commercial spaces. Entire shopping centers are redesigned and built around whether or not there's a theater there, parking lots. In fact, truth be told, if you want to go even more disclosure, when you've got city and county zoning ordinances, because coming off of the freeways, if there are theaters, there's traffic. So there's a lot of logistics that go into your local neighborhood theater, even if it's only got 8 to 10 screens. I assure you, there's a lot involved. And so if you're talking gutting the revenue of that, it has a domino effect of considerations from a cost perspective.
Right, exactly. And, I'm surprised the theaters, and I mean, we're going to get into a article that kind of gets to this point, is where I've said, I'm surprised the theaters haven't strong-armed shit a little bit more, because they got strong-armed like a motherfucker at the beginning of the pandemic. And I kept saying, I can't believe that the studios are doing this. They're shooting themselves in the foot. They can pretend all day long that, streaming is the future, which, yeah, eventually it will be.
Especially if they force it by removing alternatives.
Exactly. But I told you guys this, and everybody called me a fucking idiot. Not just you guys, not saying you guys did, but there's a lot of people who called me idiot in that one video we wrote that I specifically said, the Hollywood will learn that they need the theaters a hell of a lot more than the theaters need them. And I know that does not make sense up front, but it sure fucking does in the long run. And we're looking at the proof of it right fucking now. We've had 3 major movies that could have made a hell of a lot more money than they actually did, and it's all because of this bullshit. And the one that really proves it is fucking Fast and Furious 9. The 9th film in a fucking franchise is probably still technically the biggest film of the year. Why? Because a some bitch wasn't on streaming at the same time. That's why. That's the whole reason. And if they keep doing this, it's going to destroy not just their box office, as I've said. Nobody's going to buy the videos. Nobody's going to rent it. You already own it on Disney Plus. Sure, you dropped your $30. They got their $30, but they didn't get the first ticket. They didn't get the return ticket. They didn't get you renting it the first time or what have you from a Redbox, whatever. Even if it's digital, they get more out of that. They didn't get any of that shit. Plus, you going out and buy the extra special Blu-ray.
Exactly. That's also the thing. Unless you are a collector dedicated to buying every single MCU movie, you're not buying the DVD. You're not buying the Blu-ray. You're not buying the 4K. Why? Because whether you have Disney Plus or not, even if you go on to the high seas, there's a high-quality 4K rip out there that's higher quality than you can get in your regular Blu-ray player.
Exactly.
Not as good as your regular 4K Blu-ray player, but as better than your regular Blu-ray.
I want to add another thing to the equation here, the discussion, and this is a question for the 3 of you guys. I'm very curious because I'm not an industry guy like you guys are. And for me, when I buy physical media, again, whether it's Tom forcing me and twisting my arm to buy the 4K version,
you should.
Inside joke. Or I'm just getting, or I'm getting, whatever version I get. I'm usually buying it because I had a great time in the theater and I want to have it and I want to own it. I have not bought one digital, anything that I've seen on screen digitally or whatnot. I've never even thought twice about buying a copy of it, regardless of how I saw it, whether I saw it for free as part of a subscription I already had, or you take the black. I mean, you take the Black Widow. I mean, it doesn't even. I don't even think. I guess I own it. I don't know if I ever watch it again. But even if I did, why would I ever buy the physical media again? And see, I think almost every piece of, or it's something. If I did see it on TV, it's rare, different, and unique. Say, for example, the animated series that I watched, those I do have hard copies of. I have copies of all the Looney Tunes. But when I think of all the movies that I own, they're all something that I had an interesting or great experience with in the theater. Now, what do you guys react? How do you guys react to that?
I just got to say this. Formal Bunny's Revenge is saying, I'm just waiting for D Plus to find a way to start to overcharge me for popcorn.
Wow. Yeah.
They'll find a way. They're put like a camera on the TV or something. Oh, so you're watching
through Amazon
while eating popcorn?
Exactly. You got to buy everything through Amazon. So, you're watching that while watching a movie? That's going to be an upcharge. No, but anyway, what was your initial question? I'm so sorry, Mike.
Well, no, I'm just asking you the relationship between buying physical media, which is a great revenue source, I would think, for Warner Brothers and other studios, Disney and whatnot. But, the media that I buy is usually me. Well, Chad, what do you think? It's the media that I've had a good experience with in the theaters. Overwhelmingly, that's the case for me.
Here's the thing. Physical media, it's the studios that are doing it. It's not the consumers, because there is still a demand for it. Like, if there wasn't, there wouldn't be red boxes everywhere. There's a lot of places still in the U.S. that don't have high-speed internet, let alone, places out in the middle of God knows where, right? So we're a long ways off from everybody having decent enough internet, plus the revenue to be able to pay for enough of these streaming services for them to be successful enough to be self-sustainable. They're all going off the idea of Netflix. That's the thing. And Cultural know what I'm talking about, and you should, Mike, and Andre definitely know what I'm talking about, because you're looking at they're looking at, Netflix was successful. It was this huge success. Problem was, Netflix didn't have any fucking competition. The only competition Netflix had was Amazon, and nobody paid attention to that. Because outside of the US, Hulu didn't exist. Sure, they had other versions and stuff like that. But that's the thing, is for the longest time, Netflix had a monopoly on this market. That's how they were able to afford what they were doing. But even the studios know that they were barely keeping up with their bills. And then when Netflix decided they're going to spend all this money on their own content, that was where things kind of changed. And that's where the studios are like, okay, let's try and do this our own way. And now they're realizing this shit ain't working. Why? Because, you can't expect 250 million people to sign up for your service, and Netflix and Amazon and Hulu and Disney Plus and HBO Max and so on. And CNN is starting their own one now. Again, every week a new one starts.
Yeah, I was about to mention CNN is starting their thing.
There's like 60 fucking streaming services, and I'm not even exaggerating.
Yeah, there's probably an ancillary business reason for the CNN Plus, but we can talk about that another time. But yeah. No,
well, I think they want to separate that a little bit more from the HBO Max side of things, because HBO does their own news reporting and stuff too. I think that might be part of it.
And they're going to jettison CNN as a whole. So if you have
CNN,
I
wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah. If you have CNN plus a streaming service, it's a better package sale to somebody who's going to, take it off their hands. And boy, do they want to. But you're not wrong, Tom. And here's the thing. And this is something you and I have talked about. I think we've talked about here before. You are missing out on 4 separate revenue streams by doing this. And that's stupid, because you have a captive audience in a theater. Could you
detail each of the 4, please, sir?
Oh, sure. I mean, well, obviously you start out with the theatrical performance, right? That's your first ticket. Your second ticket could at that point be a digital sale, although I would say probably a physical sale would be better than a digital sale. And finally, all of the subsequent sales of upscaling and all of the other types of
there's cable, and then there's network television as well.
Well, yeah, I mean,
those revenues have gone down so far, because fucking John Wick 3 was already on cable television, not HBO, but what is it, FX or whatever, 2 weeks ago. That movie's brand fucking new.
Yeah. No, and actually you're right, but the TV is probably even more, the TV or the pay cable stuff is actually more important than even the repackaging.
I don't know if it is anymore. That's what I'm saying, is it used to be the big lucrative deal was your network deal. Yeah. After you get through HBO, right?
Well, but you called it all out just a second ago, saying that they're not I mean, these streaming services don't realize that, Netflix isn't there standing with a check to take their movie for 10 months, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
We want the, yeah. So it's, and so they're selling it to themselves. I mean, Comcast just did a deal with Peacock to get it through Universal to move things over to Peacock. It was really weird. And
they've screwed themselves. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's just like, okay, and then now, I mean, and again, this feeds into another video I was going to make this week. I mean, you have these entities so desperate for content that they're buying each other. So you have probably Universal, Comcast Universal on the cusp of buying Lionsgate, who just acquired Spyglass's film library and everything else, because they're like the next step. So I don't know. They are all going to hurt for content, and they don't have another person bolstering that because Netflix is, going a different way. At least that's my opinion anyway. So it is what it is. But I think I killed the conversation.
Oh, absolutely not. Very, very valid and insightful points.
Well, and that's the other thing, is you said a lot of the times they're just buying it from themselves. That's the other problem, is the networks now own, the studios are owning the networks. So like, yeah, they're just changing money within the network. That ain't making money. It makes certain people at the top money, but it ain't making nobody at the bottom anything. It's just this weird kind of like, or vice versa, roundabout way kind of thing. And it's just not working out for them. I don't know what they're doing. They're killing themselves. It literally, like, I don't know why they would even go this route. They've made it too accessible. And like you said, Andre, the biggest thing that I think killed this weekend, the second weekend box office, is it's just everywhere. You chances are you can find it and watch it so easily. Mm-hmm. And I'm not, condoning the ways that people do, but even if you got a buddy who's got Disney Plus, and they spend the $30 and they let 10 of their friends watch it, that's a lot of money that Disney technically lost.
Yeah.
If you stop and think about it. I mean, and again, anyway, so Mike, did you have anything to say about this, or Andre, from the business aspect of things, of why they would even go this route, or why they would even think this is a good idea?
I have no idea. This baffles me to all hell, because I know the second, I mean, just take the Superman and the Batman anthologies that I purchased from the animated series. I got those on eBay. I mean, I don't know. I don't know what they're doing. I don't know what was wrong with the model. I don't know, why are people always trying to make something better that worked? I mean, I think I don't understand.
I can answer that, because the old model of traditional releases, and then you have like the physical home media release and stuff like that, that worked amazing for us. It was profitable for the studios, but at the cost of the audience being free to watch the movie whenever they wanted from there on out. The only advantage that I can see with this model is that in time it takes control over distribution, and when you can watch movies completely away from consumers and gives it back to the studio, which is where they want it. So that's the only reason why I could see that they want this complete control over production and distribution. But that's a long-term goal. In the short term, that goal costs them money. Right now, it's not even feasible. They need income. So why they would try to rush out that long-term goal right in the here and the now, and leaving God knows how much money on the table by doing it this way, I cannot say.
Andre, do you think they thought they could take a shortcut because Netflix spent 20 years building up what they have? They thought they could do it in a matter of a handful?
That's exactly what I was saying, yes.
Yeah, that's exactly what I think. I think that they look at how much money Netflix have, and they think that it's completely unfair that Netflix can dominate that entire market. They shouldn't be able to do so unchallenged. If we can sneak our way in there, and we can even beat them, then we're going to earn so much money as well. And that argument, that is sound. The problem is that there's only room for like 2-3 tops of like the must-have digital service providers that everyone must have. And everyone else will be an also-ran. And so they all have to compete like hell to be among those couple three of the must-have services. And the ones that don't do that, well, they took a gamble and they lost on it. But this is a case where, like, if you win, it's a high-stakes poker game, basically.
Yeah. Well, and they can afford it. I mean, you already know, obviously.
Yeah, of course, they gamble with your taxpayer money from bailouts and stuff like that. So,
yeah, thank you. Yeah, thanks for that reminder. But no, I mean, beyond that, I mean, they also are all diving into the ad-supported streaming side of things. So you'll have that, to fall back on. And if they use Discovery's model or even Peacock's model for that, they can do pretty well there, maybe better. I mean, Discovery Plus makes more money off of their ad consumers than their premium non-ad consumers. So it's just it's an interesting thing when you consider it that way or look at it that way. But again, I mean, Universal's they've got to bolster their content so that they can backfill Peacock. All of them are in this desperate race, and they created it. This is an arms race that didn't need to exist, and ultimately will cost some of these companies like entire business segments, in my opinion. But hey.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. They're going to have to massively restructure their organization. And what that means is that people working in divisions that were previously profitable are going to lose their jobs. Whereas the shot callers, they're going to be fine. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, that's kind of how it is.
Mm-hmm. Well, let me tell you what's going to follow next. That domino will end up in their stock price falling, and that'll get some people's attention because obviously they can keep the auditors and the SEC at bay with their little games that they play. But at some point, the stock price and the dividend shall fall because you can only keep this level of lying and mismanagement and bad business ideas. You can only keep that going so long.
Yeah, exactly. And Tom, unless we had something else to say about these numbers specifically,
no, I think we
have this other article from Scotty Boy.
You want to move on to the Scotty Boy article, huh? Oh yes, this is a interesting one, and I think we're gonna. Do you want to grab a couple super chats before we get into this? Because I think we're gonna.
Yeah, I can do that. I can grab a couple super chats first. Tom, you have to say who it's from on screen. I saved it.
A Canadian $5 super chat from Rod Thunderheart.
And he says, "Hail, Andre, Tom, Mexican Ironman and Cultured Casino. I feel much better from my hernia surgery and hoping to pick up the iron or at least body weight workout this week." Well, I'm so glad the surgery went great. But just remember, take your time. Like, don't push yourself too hard. I mean, if it was like a weightlifting-inducing hernia, like pushing yourself too hard is why you ended up there in the first place. So give your body the time to heal before you really start pushing.
Please.
Yes, do that. Do that. I mean, like, the stitches aren't the same thing as fully healed muscle. So, yeah, absolutely get back into the ring and work out again, but give your body the time it takes to heal. I mean, hernia is no little thing. And with that, let's see what else we have here. I have to go back. I have to go back here and go to some of these super chats that I can no longer bring up on screen. So the classics line of super chat, and there we have the Waltman 4, who says the real test would have to be Shang-Chi and the Eternals to see how this will play out for Marvel moving forward. And yes, I'm excited about those movies as well, because Black Widow, although the movie came out, 5 years too late, at the very least, Black Widow is a known brand. Shang-Chi and the Eternals are not. Of course, you can argue that neither was Guardians of the Galaxy. However, that had a winning trailer, and neither Shang-Chi nor the Eternals have that. Culture, how do you think that Eternals and Shang-Chi are going to fare at the box office?
Poorly. poorly. They don't possess any touchstones with the audience as of yet. If reports are be to believed, the toys for Shang-Chi are already in clearance. You have both of those films are not going to be released in China. Despite its approval, Black Widow isn't going to be released in China. So that's 3 films that'll not be in China, at least until Black Widow gets a date. But for those 2 films, I think they'll be tepidly received at best, and I think they'll be again on the hook for films that may not break even, and lose money, and that's not good. I mean, you have a pretty decent cast in with some fairly well-known people in Eternals, so I think it's going to do. I think both of those films are going to do rather poorly, and they'll. In fact, I'm going to put it. They'll do probably Black Widow numbers or less would be my guess.
Yeah, I'm inclined to believe that as well. Mike, what do you think?
I think it's going to. I think this. I think we're entering a spiral where they're going to continuously lose money and not hit that break even. I think it's very fascinating to me how no Disney Plus numbers came out the second week.
Yes, that's a very good point. Very, very good point as well, because they obviously have the numbers. They know the numbers, and if those numbers had been great, you can rest assured they would have shared them like they claimed to have done last week. We got a number. Was it accurate? I don't know, but I guess it must have been in the ballpark. There must be some way that it can be found out, but I guess there must have been no way of being able to hide the numbers this time.
No, because again, and this is a conversation I think Tom and I both had, and you may have mentioned it while I was muted there for a moment, but everybody who wants to have seen this film at this point, at least as far as the digital consumption and stuff, they have it. They bought it. They're done. So I don't see the sales at the Premier Access level impacting business much more, at least during the life cycle of this film. But consider this thing, I think on October 8th or so, it goes up for free on Disney Plus. So if you're willing to wait till October, you don't have to pay for this thing. And then what did that earn you as Disney? It didn't, and it all comes down to cannibalizing things. And I think maybe Scotty gets to that here in this article. So
yeah, and Yellow Flash pointed out that Shang-Chi had a good trailer, and yes, I agree. That moment when the Abomination and Wong showed up, that was a good moment. Beyond that, none of those trailers, honestly, did anything for me. But hey, individual mileage may vary. What I will say, though, is I'm pretty sure Marvel must be grateful that what they have next is Spider-Man and Doctor Strange to make everything okay again, because those are movies I think more people will be excited about. Whereas Eternals and Shang-Chi, I don't know how much. And then a super chat we can bring up on screen. STR Red Wolf says, what would be the chance these also rants are going to merge into a Netflix/Amazon/Hulu-like streaming entity? Mike, what say you? Do you think all losers are going to band up together and make a new service all of their own?
I absolutely do. It's going to be, and we're going to end up with what I feel as a guy who has a bunch of different streaming services, and I still have my full-blown cable package with every channel on planet Earth, and I like stuff on AMC, and I like stuff over here, and I like stuff over there. We're going to end up with a digital cable box. It's going to be the same thing all over again. It has to be. It has to be. It's just a big reorganization. These guys are going to, they're like Culture says, they're bastardizing each other's content. They're bastardizing each other's services. And it's all going to end up being one again. And then they're going to have to compete. And then the price is going to be something, whatever. And then it's just like, I feel like I'm watching my cable box over the last year and a half. I feel like I've watched my cable box just reorganize itself into a digital parallel freaking universe. I'm in some kind of Star Trek episode, with hardline here and virtual there and streaming. I mean, you know what I mean? I'm like,
well, that's exactly what we predicted. Almost 3 years back now with Bill Hunt. when we were talking to him, and that was basically,
I think it's more than that, honestly. But yeah,
you were going to get to a point where that's all it's going to be. Is you're like all these streaming services. There's going to be so many, and cable is going to be worthless. So you're going to be spending just as much though on these streaming services as you're on cable. And a lot of people are going to be saying the same thing as you, Mike, and that is, what did I really do here? I'm not saving any money. In fact, you're probably spending more.
Yeah.
Especially if you add in your internet coverage, yeah.
Only thing that you're going to stop watching regular cable and stuff like that and just watch things on streaming when you want it. So everything will be on demand, as opposed to this is when it's broadcast and you have to watch it live.
Well, I see something of that, or a hybrid of that, kind of a combination of what Mike's saying and some others, because you have to remember Hulu was a couple of different entities coming together to provide content. Now they did purchase outside content, but then they started to do their own stuff, and then Disney took more and more control over Hulu gradually. But I do see I see a bunch of the also rans coming together as kind of a Hulu and sharing revenue. I see them, combining forces to release their products, under, some negotiated deal, some contractual deal that, you provide X number of films this year, you provide X number of films this year, you do X number of shows, and so on and so forth. And I think that's another possibility that could happen that would make sense for the quote unquote also rans. So, but you're going to have 3 or 4. I think Tom and I have said that, and I think Andre probably has many, many times. You're going to have a handful that everybody's going to want to have, and that's going to be it. That's going to be it.
Yeah, exactly. There's like room for just a couple of contenders there at the very, very top. However, I do not think that the also rans are going to merge and create a new one all of their own, because that would just be fighting a new battle that they already lost, all the losers joining up. No, what's going to happen is that they're all going to split up and they're all going to try to enter deals with the winners. They're all going to make deals with Amazon, Netflix, ideally try to be acquired by them. If they can't do that, enter a production deal, something like that.
Yeah, but you're seeing that even with the winners right now. They're entering, 10-month agreements with some of these companies that are, have their own streaming services already. So yeah, I can see that happening as well.
MEitM makes an interesting observation. I don't know if you guys want to pick it up about commercials. Do you see that comment in the stream?
Let's see. I'm going to lose a few super.
I'll just read it. I'll just read it. It says, it's so frustrating what they're doing with this reorganization. I have too many subscriptions. I fear they will start to put commercials in some of those subscriptions.
Well, they already kind of are.
Oh, there. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. You found it.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, and wait, real quickly to add to that, consider this. There's already now digital technology that can lay in advertisements in existing things. And you're going to start seeing that in your consumed media.
Yeah, we talked about that.
Yeah, that's coming. I mean, it's already, they can do it now. So that flower shop could turn into an FTD shop, that used to be, in The Godfather, right? So it's gonna, maybe it has an FTD logo. You're gonna see, Coca-Cola where once it was Joe's Soda Shop, right? You're gonna start seeing that. They're gonna try to make it tasteful and fit with the period of whatever they're creating, but be prepared for that. And you're also be prepared for that more intrusively in video games, guys. I'm sorry, that's happening.
Well, it already was in video games.
No, but I mean more in a more dominant way.
Oh,
it's coming.
Well, and you already have a situation where you watch even a movie on HBO Max, and you get an advertisement for something for HBO before the movie starts. Generally, you can skip them. It's not like you can't, but right there, they're already trying to do it. They're advertising for themselves. It'll only be a matter of time.
Yeah.
It'll be like portion of it, or this is partially sponsored by, whatever in the beginning, and Dodge Ram, blah, 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 blah. Now enjoy Game of Thrones.
Well, what's fascinating is I just got I mentioned this a couple weeks ago. I just set up the new house, my new Samsung TV. I went through the whole setup of it, and it's hardwired in where it defaults up to the Samsung TV network first, and then preloaded are the apps, and of course there's YouTube is right there. When I'm not on the show, I put Midnight's Edge. You guys are on. You guys are thundering through the house. Like if I'm doing work and something like that, you're on the big screen, and I have Midnight Edge coming through my house through the YouTube channel that's on my Samsung. To actually get out of my Samsung, I got to go out of the Samsung TV, which default turns on, pass through the channels that are already pre-installed with the loading apps like YouTube, Hulu, and whatnot, and then I got to force the TV to input out over to like the actual cable box if I actually wanted to watch anything on the cable box, like baseball or something.
Mike,
yeah,
just hit the source button on the remote, dude.
Well, when you're a Southern genteel Mexican, that kind of simple work, sometimes we folks like to complicate things, culture.
No, it's fine.
But I say us down south here, we don't use fancy things like remotes.
Okay.
We get up off our duffs and we change the channel.
I doubt that highly. But I will say this. I believe that Samsung is powered by Samba TV, so they say thank you, Michael. Thank you.
Well, isn't it fascinating that the Samba numbers, Andre and Casino and Tom, don't you find it fascinating the relevance and importance of, say, the Samba numbers when we have these discussions? I find it's absolutely intriguing. Yeah.
Oh, it tells you how close they are and what a portion of the market penetration that they've had as a company here in the United States can correlate to a certain percentage of the subscriptions of each of these services. And so once the people have worked those out, you're going to see kind of what even with these services not releasing their streaming data, you're going to kind of see and be able to predict after that first weekend what kind of viewership these things are actually getting. So I'm pretty stoked by it, because as we get more and more transparency with Roku and Roku's deal to utilize Nielsen's data, you're going to start to see windows emerge and people that have really good models that predict this stuff. So it's going to be we're going to have the transparency. It may not be because the services want us to. So.
Well, in that, go ahead.
Oh, I was done.
Oh, okay. Never mind. I thought you were going to say something else.
Yeah. Let's move on with the super chats before we get into what Scotty Boy is writing. Robert said for $5, "Hail Midnighters, summer of '82. E.T. destroyed the box office. Good summer movie from my childhood." And Nikki D says Spider-Man 3 might be the best barometer for the overall health of the MCU brand. If it doesn't get close to $1 billion in the global box office, then it might be cause for concern. And right now, that's the movie that should get closest to it. But of course, if they also release that one straight to some streaming service, one or the other, then that's going to undermine the chances of even that happening, isn't it?
Yeah.
And then we have Black Sabbath, who says Jason Statham would have been a great choice for Taskmaster. Oh my God, yeah, he would. He would have been amazing for Taskmaster. I'd have seen a Taskmaster movie starring Jason Statham. Oh well. Path not taken. Willie Woodward says for $1.99, goes to show studios need theaters. Yeah, certainly for money. And then, Tom, you have to introduce Rod again.
Thank you so much, Rod Thunderheart.
Says for $5 Canadian, I have no desire to see Black Widow. I just feel it's a wasted opportunity that came at the wrong time. Space Jam, I'm marginally interested in, but I can wait. Yeah, you hold that thought, because we'll get into Space Jam later on here. Mr. Tickle Drunk says, I wonder where all those Russian bots went, huh? They're always nice to blame, but I don't think that anything's flopped quite badly enough that they need to be blamed just yet. And Polaris Sucks says, with adult AD&D and dog interrupting, need theaters. It's not the same experience watching at home. It's too many distractions. This is very true. And Lars Hansen sent us a 30 Danish krona super sticker of a thumbs up pair guy, so thanks for that. Daryl the Derelict says, common sense has left the building. Let's hope it makes a comeback before year's end. Yes, let's hope. Fingers crossed for a comeback of reason. So we'll see what happens. And Wooly Woodward says for $4.99, these studios are vertical monopolies. Monopolies hurt the companies themselves because they don't bring in any new cash. This is why monopolies are bad. And by cutting everyone else out of the distribution chain. But I don't think that they're quite monopolies, those, because they do compete with each other. So yeah, but interesting situation, to be clear. And Fortunato says for $5, Serenio Ironman. I understand that if any more words came pouring out of your fibbing mouth, I'm going to have to eat every fried chicken in this room. So yeah, that's I guess approval of you being a Sureño, a
Yes,
southerner.
that means a southerner, Sureño Norteño. That's it'll take too long to get into it. It's funny, hilarious, and awesome joke.
Okay, brilliant.
Yeah.
And SDR Red Wolf says for $5, what would be the chance these also? Oh yeah, we got this one already. And then Jalatron says for $10. Thank you so much. I don't know if this is out of your wheelhouse, but it looks like Games Workshop is cleaning itself up for general audiences. Do you think that's even possible considering the source material? Now, Games Workshop, gentlemen, isn't that the place where you buy like miniature games of like Warhammer and stuff like that? Is that what Games Workshop is?
Games Workshop is a games creation company. They do a lot of tabletop stuff.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
Yeah. So no, you're not wrong. And that would make a lot of sense. The goal being to get, more of that kind of IP out there. And I would have a hard time disagreeing with that. I think that there's a lot of effort to make a lot of those IPs presentable for general audiences, or all audiences, I should say.
Yeah. I don't know anything about it, so I will just have to defer to your assessment there. Mike, Tom, any thoughts on that? Any familiar with it?
No, I'm gonna do a pass here. I'm unfamiliar.
Yeah. And
I can't tell you that the proliferation of advertising is what got me to be less of a gamer than I usually was. I used to play 1 to 3 hours a day, and I don't anymore. I maybe play 2 to 5 hours a week at best on a good week.
And then finally, Michael Millard says CNN Plus should have been consolidated with HBO Max. Because CNN just announced that they were starting their own streaming service in CNN Plus. Now, Culture, do you think that CNN Plus should have been consolidated with HBO Max?
I think that was originally the plan, but again, I mean, there's going to be a lot of things in flux with CNN, because they've wanted to shake that off of the tree for a long time. I mean, that thing's been up for sale for the better part of 2 years, I think. It might even be longer. Or right before the election, they were looking to get that thing packaged for sale at the uptick that they knew was existing, and then they were ready to sell it right after the election. It started to get a little bit more desperate, but with the merger between Warner Media and Discovery, I anticipate with the new entity that they will want to shuck it off. Again, with CNN intact as a terrestrial as well as or linear, I should say, with a streaming service. Like I said earlier, I think that's ultimately what they would like to do. I first of all, it doesn't serve HBO's brand of content or content delivery to include CNN, and you're starting to see some of these streaming services question whether or not they are going to roll in even sports services into their streaming platforms. I think eventually that'll be more likely to happen rather than the news to roll in. But
have you seen the ratings for CNN over the last 6 months?
Yeah,
I mean, you want to talk about a deep dive of numbers a la Black Widow. Yeah. They are. I mean, you're talking some Black Widow drop. You're talking some Batwoman type of drop off. I mean, they are absolutely going into the cellar. And the only way that I'll be interested, because here you have AT&T, who look, this move that they made, I think, was intelligent from a business perspective and smart. There is not, when you look at what's going to happen with CNN, wherever it goes, it's going to be a plague of infestation. I'm not going to get into the politics on this channel, but I'm just telling you, from a ratings and an entertainment perspective, there's nothing there. And wherever it gets parked isn't going to be good for whatever car it parks next to.
Do you think this might be something that was advised by what's his face, Laszlo?
Zaslav, absolutely.
Zaslav,
Yeah,
I completely agree with that.
Yeah.
Because like I said, they've been wanting to ditch him for a while, and Mike's right. I mean, it terrestrial. I keep saying that. Linear news has cable news has been tanking since after the election. I mean, across the board. But CNN and a couple others far worse than others. So yeah, I think it would be time to get rid of that.
Yeah.
All right.
And also, I agree completely with Mike said about, like, if you consolidate with HBO Max, quite a few viewers are going to distance themselves from HBO Max as a result.
Look, I got HBO Max, Andre. I'm sorry.
Because like it comes with a certain flavor, which either you like or you don't. And and regardless, it's a kind of flavor that ideally entertainment companies should stay far away from, not be integrated with.
I mean, two comments. Why wouldn't CNN try to ledge itself with entertainment, since basically all it is made up entertainment? But that's a story for another day. But boom, bam. But my other comment is this: as someone, I subscribe to HBO Max specifically for guess what movie, Tom? Guess what movie?
The Snyder Cut, wasn't it?
Why, indeed it was, sir. In fact, I subscribed, and then I hosted the Echo Base Network private view party with my ID and the whole 9 yards, and I still have it. I think it's a pain in the butt to navigate around. We've discussed that exhaustively. But I can tell you this: if I start seeing CNN anywhere near the HBO Max, I'm going to kill my subscription, and my level of interest and enthusiasm goes down like exponentially, a la Black Widow numbers falling at the box office.
Yeah, and speaking of HBO Max, now that we have a little of perspective on it, they totally fucked in the heights, because Space Jam 2 is all over that motherfucker. Like, you can't tell. Like, that movie got so buried on HBO Max, it ain't even funny. But anyway, so let's get into this article. Unless we had another super chat or two to get into, Andre.
We have, but let's deal with them afterwards. Let's get into the article.
Sure, let's do that. All right, so we got one from Scotty. Scotty, how you doing, buddy? It's been a little while, but I'm going to read this article here. We'll break it down. NATO's premature attack on Black Widow might backfire, according to Scott Mendelson. NATO released a 12-paragraph statement yesterday decrying Walt Disney's choice to release Marvel's Black Widow both in theaters and via Disney Plus's Premier Access platform. Unusually pointed and uncommonly specific, the National Association of Theater Owners declared that Black Widow lower end of expectations debut 80 million and 67% second weekend plunge, a record for an MCU flick, which I also predicted, was proof of the supremacy of theatrical windows. One moment. Sorry, I had to cough. Conversely, F9 will today pass A Quiet Place Part 2 as the year's biggest domestic grosser, which I pointed out earlier in the show. Both sequels are over 155 million domestic with good to great legs. This despite the Paramount flick despite the Paramount flick became available. That does not make sense. Becoming available, right, on Paramount Plus for free and via EST for $20 46 days after opening day, and Universal Tentpole may arrive on PVOD as early as next week. Look, I'm obviously on record in preferring theatrical windows and preferring the theatrical experience. I will argue that day and date releases, like we've seen for Premier Access, $30+ to lease for Disney and subscribers. Notice he said the term lease. I like that. And HBO Max free for top tier subscribers. Yeah, that's my other question. Okay, let's say I cancel my Disney Plus, but I bought Black Widow. Do I still have access to Black Widow, or do I have to still pay for my Disney Plus?
I think you would lose access, wouldn't you?
Yeah, fuck them.
You lose access. You have to maintain both.
You know what?
So
I don't have to pay to get in my Vudu or my Amazon. Well, I technically do have to pay for my Amazon, but
but your Vudu? No. In fact, that's the other conversation around these Premier Access films is if you only wait a month, you can buy them and own them digitally if that's your preference.
Yeah.
You can do that with Vudu or other similar services,
right?
And you don't have a subscription service, and likely didn't cost you $30.
Right. No. So anyhow, where was I? And HBO Max free for top tier subscribers. Don't just harm the overall theatrical revenues, if only by a nominal amount, but completely devastate the potentially lucrative post theatrical revenue streams. Oh, Scotty, you think? As we've only been saying that for what, a fucking year? As NATO correctly pointed out, the $60 million earned by Black Widow on Premier Access, which allows you to own the movie for as long as you. Oh, well, he answered the question for me. Thank you, Scotty. You are useful. To subscribe to Disney Plus isn't new revenue, but rather reappropriated cash that may well have been accounted for either via theatrical viewings, repeat theatrical viewings, and or purchases on EST, DVD, and the like. Sound familiar, culture? Respective self-interest notwithstanding, Disney arguably sat back while Universal, Warner, and Paramount kept theaters warm only to A, drop a Marvel movie that will merely perform on the low end of expectations, and B, release the first weekend's Disney Plus revenue to skew the post-debut narrative. See, what did we say? Disney's Marvel movies are coming back to theaters, featurette, complete out of the context Stanley quote. Notwithstanding, the Disney Plus reveal minimized the theatrical revenue in terms of media coverage and shareholder interest. God, Scotty writes like a dry fart. You ever notice that? Appreciated transparency aside, theater stocks dropped while Disney's rose. That Disney didn't release Disney Plus second weekend revenue showed that the first time was a calculated distraction meant not mean to obscure that Black Widow's 158 million global launch was lower than F9's 161 million global launch. What did I tell you? However, going on the offensive may have done more harm than good. Sure, you know what, Scotty? I could do your job for you. In fact, I've done it better for you for the last 5 minutes. However, going on the offensive may have done more harm than good. Sure, the saber rattling may have been potentially as much of a bluff as NATO promising dire consequences to Universal for releasing Trolls World Tour on POVOD last year. Was it though, Scotty? However, NATO may have spoken too soon. First, yes, Black Widow's second weekend drop of 67% wasn't the worst ever for MCU movie and closer to the likes of Man of Steel and Suicide Squad than Black Panther or Avengers. However, the previous worst second weekend drop-offs for Marvel were for Spider-Man Homecoming, 62% from a $717 million debut, and Ant-Man and the Wasp, 62% from a $76 million launch on this very weekend in 2017 and 2018. The difference for Black Widow's second weekend between 67% drop and the 62% drop was just $4 million, $2 million of which would have gone back to theaters. While the Disney Plus factor clearly didn't help, it's not like A, Space Jam: A New Legacy didn't perform slightly better than anticipated. Did it though? And B, that Black Widow as a theatrical only release would have otherwise magically notched a 55% drop in weekend 2. Moreover, both Ant-Man and the Wasp and Spider-Man Homecoming recovered after shocking second weekend drops, ending up rock solid 2.85 times weekend to final multipliers and respective final grosses of $216 million and $334 million. Yep. Legs like those will still get Black Widow to $214 million domestically at the lower end of the expected. Do you think it'll get that far?
With all of those things set there, maybe. I think it could have been.
I say no.
Well, I think it would have come up a little short, but it would have made it more. Again, you're compromising your legs. I mean, he's trying to point that out. He's doing it very clumsily, but John Miller's Damage Control, yes. But it's just, I think it could have got close. I don't know about 215, but it would have been close. I think. You have to remember, this film also, I mean, they're using that number with the international box office as well, with no China release. I'm going to say it. I'm going to stop hedging and say, it would have been just under 215 or very close to it.
Tom, what do you think? I don't think there's any way in hell it's going to get that number. Not really, not in earnest.
I don't think it's going to make it. I really don't.
The 10-day right now,
it might, but I just that's very unlikely.
Okay, let's look at the 10-day window, because that's essentially where we just ended, right? We're sitting at between international and domestic market at 264 million in box office. So, can you see 215 that way in 10 days? Yeah, no. Easily. I think it would have been close. I think he's not wrong, but I think right. I think your fall off would have been. I think your fall off would have been more in line with what we have been seeing. Post global crisis, because that has been that's like because like it fell off 67%. I would say that it would fall off 57% or maybe less, maybe 55%, and been better off. I think in the 10-day, I think. So yeah, I'm not going to hedge anymore. I think he's pretty close. He's just not doing it well. So conversation.
Yeah. So let me get back into this story. While I cannot automatically presume that Black Widow will follow suit in terms of legs, NATO might have wanted to wait until the third weekend to see if drops leveled off before drawing correlation equals causation conclusions. Heck, even legs like Suicide Squad, which earned 1.46 times its 10-day total after 67% drop, still gets to 193 million, which may qualify as slightly disappointing, about on par with Ant-Man in terms of tickets sold, but will still be higher than anything else this summer, save for maybe Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings on Labor Day. Speaking of which, you think that's going to play better than Black Widow? You're fucking delusional. As of this moment, Shang-Chi will indeed get a 45-day theatrical window, and this is where NATO arguably screwed up. Did they though?
No. See this. So he does a lot of work to try to say this. I can't possibly agree with him, having read this article 1.5 times through at this point. The theaters needed to do this sooner. I'm sorry. They needed to take a stand. I mean, and the fact that, there was some amount of caving because of the Trolls World Tour thing really screwed stuff up. I mean, if I were the theaters, I would have said, you know what? If you aren't going to, abide by the previous theatrical build out, then release it digitally. And I guarantee you they would have come back, but they had to stand strong and they didn't. Maybe this is their, maybe they're grabbing their boots and hiking them up higher for the next.
Well,
but Culture, how much of a fight are they going to put up when you look at from March 13th last year till arguably still even right now? They're either locked down, trying to unlock down, and trying to reopen, and closing locations and buying other locations. I mean, they're what
they were releasing previously screened films and doing wonderfully well with them, and the box office take on those is far less than what the studios are going to ask for out the gate. The majority of the money, and this is one of those things. The majority of the money in a film comes that first weekend, and maybe the balance of the first week. That's it. That's where you should be. That's where the majority of the actual audience is that the opening weekend. Maybe the opening 10 days could be an argument, but the greatest share of the revenue, as you know, is shared at that point in time, in an unfair way. It does not service the theater owners. It services the studios. They take a giant cut. So they're not, you're killing the time that they're going to earn money. And you're taking a giant chunk up front. So isn't it better to screen films from 15, 20 years ago, on anniversary dates and stuff like that, and take a giant chunk of the box office because you're, paying, essentially a leasing fee for the film for, just for showing it? I think they did pretty well. And I think Tom had some numbers. I don't have them, but I think Tom had some numbers to back some of that up with some of the re-releases of stuff doing quite well. So. But
yeah, because last year 2 of the biggest films were Halloween and Empire Strikes Back, and I don't mean the 2018 Halloween either. So yeah, I mean, there's a lot to basically what you just said is a lot of things we've been saying over the last year. But let me get on with this article here because we're almost done. Or actually, this is more of an editorial. One can optimistically argue that Warner Brothers and Disney see the whole day-and-date release strategy as a temporary fix for a temporary situation, come what may. And I think that's where the theaters were playing along too for a while. But now that shit's changed, they're like, fuck that noise. We're still in a global pandemic where A, lots of markets aren't as heavily vaccinated as America, B, lots of Americans aren't vaccinated either, and C, far fewer kids are vaccinated compared to adults. I have argued by coincidence or design that AT&T's seemingly craven release our 2021 schedule or slate in theaters and on HBO Max plan was exactly the cushion justification required to release a slew of big and small films into theaters as scheduled, even during deeply uncertain times. Ditto Disney. I can't believe he's taking HBO's side in this. Wow. Ditto Disney releasing 100 to 200 million tent poles like Cruella, Jungle Cruise, and Black Widow among the current circumstances. Yeah, they're so noble. You can argue The Conjuring and The Devil Made Me Do It, Space Jam: A New Legacy, and Godzilla vs. Kong might have grossed more theatrically without HBO Max, even though you just said... Anyway, might have grossed more. However, would those films have been released this year? Oh, here he goes. That's where the but. However, would those films have been released this year if they were entirely dependent on theatrical revenue? Disney is currently pledging to go theaters only with Shang-Chi, Free Guy, and the rest of their 2021 slate. Gee, I wonder why they would do that, especially after they're trying to say, oh, Black Widow was a success. Encanto, Internals, West Side Story, etc. Oh, that's another thing. Disney, the West Side Story. That's who's releasing it. Oh, it's a Fox picture, probably.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, Fox Studios.
Pledging a 45-day window at least for the tent poles in 2022 and beyond. Studios may see this as a desperate measures in desperate times gambit. However, NATO prematurely going off the offensive threatens to make Disney and Warner Brothers' already planned recommitment to theatrical exclusivity retroactively look like capitulation. Okay. This could just be NATO blowing smoke as it suits them. Well, true, but they're in the right here. But anyway, I'm not going to get into that right now. They are admittedly dealing with a media and Wall Street selling the idea that theaters were already near death before COVID and that streaming revenue is just sexier. However, by striking before we know whether Black Widow's second weekend drop is anything other than business as usual for midsummer MCU movie, NATO risks looking foolish if the Scarlett Johansson-led prequel recovers over the next 6 weeks. Do you really think that's going to happen, Scotty? You're fucking basing this whole fucking editorial on Black Widow's ass? Black Widow's over. I hate to tell you, Scotty.
Yeah, look, God, he's not looking at the same numbers I am, and these films have limited legs now. They just do, and people don't have the expendable income to throw at a film that they're not jazzed to see when they could catch it on a platform a few months later, right? He's not looking at the same numbers. I don't know what's wrong with him.
It's not how movies work, Scott.
No.
This ain't Scream. This ain't gonna have like some fucking legs out of nowhere that no one knew about, right? It's just not gonna happen.
Yeah, you're right.
No, sorry. That's my perfect example for a movie that nobody's seen coming. The opening weekend was not bad, but it was nothing to sneeze at, or it was nothing to really like make a big deal about. But then all of a sudden, Scream took off like a fucking banshee in Heat. and it just played and played and played like Titanic, same kind of thing. But Titanic had a huge opening too. But Scream, nobody expected. And I know Andre is not a big fan of the film either, but it does go. It is historically, it's one of those movies that is a great example of a pot boiler, not a pot boiler. What's the one word I'm thinking of? Where a movie comes out a surprise out of nowhere and it just keeps playing. I can't think of the word. There's a word for it. Somebody in the chat will remind me. But anyway, yeah, like Black Widow is not that though. Black Widow ain't that. It ain't that. I think I'm glad you like that. He's hanging this whole editorial on hopes that Black Widow will recover in some way, right?
Has any movie in movie history demonstrated something similar?
That's the only point I just brought up. It's a sleeper hit. Thank you so much, Nuno DeSantos. Sleeper hit is what I was thinking of. One of the few I could think of is like Scream, where it was like it opened, and I think it even opened like number 2 or 3 even the weekend it came out. But then word of mouth got out, and it just became this huge sleeper hit to the point where it ended up. The sequel made tons of fucking money.
But Tom, you also have blockbusters that have incredible legs too. You talked about one, or we did near the beginning in Batman '89. Yeah, Batman '89 had legs forever, and there are films like that. I mean, how long did Star Wars play? And I'm talking about A New Hope, guys, because there was only one Star Wars when it came out.
So you guys are picking 3 movies from 1 billion years ago that are years apart.
Really,
the exception does not prove the rule.
No, that's the point, though. You're right. They're Mexican Ironman. That's the point. They're rare. They're not. These are not. This is not a unicorn. This guy's trying to say we have a unicorn in Black Widow. No.
I don't know about sleepers being a sleeper hit though, Jesse. Thanks for trying though. Yeah, John Wick is probably the most recent one. Great example right there, Mike Cat. Movie that opened, it was like whatever, and then all of a sudden word of mouth got out there and it just kept going and going and going, and the sequels prove the initial film's success. See? And that's usually what we try to keep reminding people is you got to go by what the next film does.
Well, and Scotty also isn't taking into consideration something else, a factor that not a lot of people are talking about. Black Widow got more screens its second week and weekend. It jumped up for Friday, Saturday, and Sunday that just ended. It jumped up 115 more screens domestically. And
so it got more screens, but played worse.
Yeah.
Well, that doesn't count. That's a different number altogether.
Yeah, The Matrix is another good example. Thank you, Shum.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and like I said, I would call those unicorns, right? I just use the word. It's you don't know. You might get a unicorn, and if you do, the thing is going to run forever. But if it's not, it's going to be this film. I mean, he's like making an argument for a film that lost the second weekend, like lowest point to Ant-Man and Wasp. And this film, Black Widow, finishes below second weekend as far as the fall off week to week, below Ant-Man and Wasp.
And it shouldn't have.
Yeah, was the worst, which was the worst performing film that they had. So
and that's not speaking to the quality, but yeah, you're right. Like culture, that's like the low end of the totem pole. So like you got Black Widow though. She's no Ant-Man, right? Like people know her. She's Scarlett Johansson. She's been in 10 fucking movies now.
Yeah, she's cachet, man. She is box office gold. Boom, right? And they only have themselves to blame. And again, I mean, and these are apologies. Again, these are apologists and apologies for mediocre products, right? And it was mediocre not because of the people involved. It was mediocre because the story was mediocre, because when it was being presented, this was mediocre. This was a lukewarm. It wasn't anything to get excited about because we already knew the end of the character, right? And we needed this film, and I'm going to keep saying it, and I think Gary said it in his recent video. We needed this movie 6 or 7 years ago, maybe 8 years ago, right? And we didn't get it. And these are the fruits that you bear because of that. This is the row you sowed. So there you are.
All right.
And just to finish up this article or editorial, because we're almost done. Black Widow opened at 80 million domestically. Did I read this one or no? No. The Black Widow opened with an 80 million domestic, even while it was available. It was available to lease for $30. Shows the necessity of theater revenue for tentpoles. Oh, you think, Scotty? 60 million is still just 2 million households, or less than 2% of the 110 million global subscribers that choosing to fork over that extra money. And that includes untold millions of dollars lost due to army matey, piracy, and folks paying $30 instead of multiple times for different prices via theaters, EST, PVOD, and or Blu-ray down the line, as we just said. Boy, didn't we just write this article for Scotty like 2 years ago?
What, 3 weeks ago? Because we started to see them laying this
He's listening. The little fucker's listening.
Yeah, we started laying this groundwork 3 weeks ago when we started seeing these piracy arguments for Black Widow, and then that got ramped to a fever pitch because even if it did get released in China, they wouldn't go to it because they would already have it available because it's already been pirated in 4K, and that argument's never held a bit of water. But we saw this coming, and Tom and I we could have banged our heads together and punched this out way before this. I just feel like, and this is the problem with the way stories are being told now, and I don't want to put it that way, with the way journalism is presented now, or analysis is being presented now, because there's just enough truth in there that that tries to make everything else seem like it's true, and it's not. And I don't know. This is one of those things. He hits on enough things that are true. But he grasps the wrong conclusions, or he draws the wrong conclusions. I don't know. Pick your verbiage, but man, he's frustrating sometimes. Oh yeah. I still can't believe the models had this thing projected to only have a 55% drop.
Yeah, I know that. Well, that was wrong by the average.
Well. Yeah, but the averages put it down 2% more, and they thought the relative strength of the film was going to be 913%, and that's ridiculous. Nothing's held up like that. The probably the strongest ones I think recently would have been like Boss Babies, believe it or not, as far as its week over week retention, relative strength. So I don't know, man. It's bananas.
And entering the fray now is a man who is much like a superhero. Well, he has super sense anyway. Mr. Script Doctor, how you doing?
I'm well. Sorry I'm late. Had to run some errands.
Hail, brother. How are you?
How are you? Hopefully you're doing well.
Yeah, I'm doing great. I've been doing a lot of writing in the morning, then got to do, adult stuff, and thought I'd take a break, see how you guys are doing.
Oh, we're just cracking, having fun with Scott Mendelson with this article that we clearly wrote for him weeks ago that he decided to hijack and write as his own. Hi, Scotty. We know you're listening. I don't know if you saw this yet, but yeah, he's basically come to the conclusion that maybe, just maybe, theaters and the studios, they need each other. Or at least, in the very least, the studios need the theaters to exhibit their movies, right? So, yeah, he's kind of come to that conclusion. But there's a big if with that, though. That is if Black Widow has the longest legs of any movie in history.
And defies all statistics that have been booked in recent history.
Yeah. And I'll tell you, Scarlett Johansson has some nice long legs, I tell you, but I don't think they're that long.
She's 5'2". They're not that long.
Yeah,
shush, I don't care. Just shush. It just went with the saying, okay?
But no, I've seen a couple of low reports where they're doing everything they can to try and project its drop to be no less than what Captain Marvel's was, which I think was like 55% or something of that nature.
Yeah, actually, just covered that. I just said,
yep.
yeah, and it fell 2% beyond what is the average right now. In fact, it fell down an additional 12% from their expectations to 67%. So, yeah.
Okay, then Thanos. Thank you for helping me correct this. Then ScarJo may have some nice legs, but I don't think she has long legs, which is exactly what Black Widow needs right about now. Oh, I'm a better writer than Scotty. Eat that.
Ba-boom, ching.
I say I'll even do it in Foghorn. Oh, so Andre is not back yet, I don't think. But yeah, basically this is like a lot of Scotty.
Well, I mean, at least it's a more honest drop-off projection because Captain Marvel, there's lots of weird numbers on that one. So that one probably, who knows? I mean, like, there's always the rumors and the speculation that the box office numbers are kind of cooked for that one, and that's during a normal season of theater going. So now that we don't have the normal season and Black Widow has this, I would still say, given the context and situation, I mean, not great, but better.
Right.
And, yeah.
Oh, crap. So yeah, I think that this is pretty much done for. I think we've made our point on it all. Unless Mike, you had anything more to add to it?
Nope, you guys already nailed it.
Yeah, the only thing I'm going to add is that it was very disappointing because the projections had this thing outlasting another film that just dropped this last weekend, at least outperforming it, and it didn't.
Which is our transition to discuss what?
What was that, Space Jam?
Everybody get up. It's time to slam now. We got a real jam going down. Don't go down. I saw Space Jam.
Yeah,
oh, I'm sorry.
All right, yeah, I'm sorry, Tim.
Right. How do you take a movie that's 87 minutes long and make it over 2 hours long? Also, let's be real. Space Jam is one of those movies that never should have been a success. Never should have been as good as it was. It was an idea and a concept that grew out of an advertisement. And outside of Ernest, can anybody tell me anything that has ever came out of a commercial that was successful when it was, taken to the next level, like a TV show or a movie? Anybody?
No. Good God, no.
Right. So like this was like a flash in the pan. The planets aligned just perfectly with this idea. The movie came out right at the right time. I went to see the original film as a joke. Mm-hmm. Like I went to see the first original Space Jam as a complete and utter fucking joke. And I ended up walking out of the movie enjoying it. I mean, you had Michael Jordan, who is arguably probably one of the most likable athletes of all time. He's not the greatest actor, but he's all right at playing himself. Let's be real. You have the Looney Tunes in probably one of the closest versions outside of Looney Tunes back in action to their classic forms on the screen, right? And you just have this wild ass concept. You've got Ivan Reitman producing. You've got Bill Murray popping in there.
It was the perfect storm of things coming together.
Exactly.
You got the rise of the NBA. So I'm a huge sports fan. You got the rise of the NBA. It's the golden age of the NBA. You got the rise of the NBA. You got the best guy of all time, arguably the greatest. Definitely in the conversation for the top 3 all time, any decade whatsoever in the NBA. You've got the right team. You have people in our generation who grew up with these animated characters. Yeah, good production team, good people behind that. I mean, it literally is the perfect storm coming together.
Well, you're missing one thing, Mike.
What?
That big controversy where Michael Jordan left basketball to become a baseball player and then returned to basketball. That is the central crux of the story. That is the central crux of the story. That is Michael Jordan.
He did that just for the movie.
Yeah.
That is Michael Jordan coming through a character arc to realize that he shouldn't be denying him what he's good at.
Yeah.
And
well, that's just it. Yeah, you're right.
Made the movie right itself, essentially.
When you saw it, did you like it, Tom?
I did. I didn't hate it. I sit there and go, oh, is it like a great movie? That's debatable. I mean, again, I reiterate, there's no reason this movie should work. There's no reason the movie should exist. There's no reason that it should even be as good as it is, as charming as it is. That's, I think, the thing most of all. Space Jam is fucking charming as hell. Like, from the very start, you're sucked into the little story, like you said, scripted, mirrors real life, and everybody kind of took it as a joke. And that's the thing that I think works for the first film that we'll get into this next film, though, is that Michael Jordan could at least have some fun with himself. Like, he wasn't above the movie poking a little fun at him trying to do this baseball thing. That whole bit in the beginning is fucking hilarious. I mean, come on. I mean, everybody's trying. He's sitting there trying. He's like, he's going to throw a curveball. Or whatever. He's like telling him what he's throwing so he can try and hit it, and he can't even fucking hit it.
Well, look, there's no way. I can't stand LeBron. There's no way in hell I was going to watch this, and I still won't. There's nothing I can do to. I mean, there's no way I'm watching this thing.
I mean, the whole setup is just fucking ridiculous. Just the whole idea to get them into space so they could call it Space Jam in the first place is fucking ridiculous. Right? But it still just fucking happens to work, right? So let's fast forward 30 plus years, actually, because it was 1996 when the first movie came out.
Yeah.
So here we are. It's 35 or 25 years later, right? 25, yeah. So 25 years later, we finally get a movie that was shot over 2 years ago. And now, Script, I wonder if you have any insight on this, because I've heard some differences and things that changed between now and the version we got. And I'll tell you, Space Jam 2 is the biggest fucking ego trip of a movie I have ever fucking seen in my life.
Okay, before you go to Script, because I got to pop off in the next few minutes. I got a work conference call, but I just wanted to say before you guys, I'm not going to see it. I can't stand LeBron. I started watching the finals after he was out.
You've already seen it. It's Space Jam all over again.
Oh, well, then I'm good. I'm not missing
Just
anything.
not funny or entertaining at all.
Well, you guys tear it up. I'll be listening. I'll listen to this portion of the show later. Thanks for having me on. Love you guys, and go tear it up.
It just takes them a half hour more to do it. That's all, Mike.
All right.
Well, no, they throw in that subplot of LeBron having to rescue his kid, right? Because that's not in Space Jam.
Well, neither is. Oh, that's the thing, is that plot is all replaced with, yeah. Well, the Looney Tunes, all that shit's added in later as far as like the similarities in the plot, but that's kind of the catalyst. I mean, the short version is this: Warner Brothers has this new algorithm that can put people in the movies, right? Like, you know how we talked culture earlier about the whole software that can put in advertisements in old films.
Yeah.
That's basically what this is. It's like a software that'll put people in the movie, and they want LeBron James to promote it, because algorithm, the algorithm that made this whole idea in the first place, it calculates that LeBron James is the perfect superstar to push HBO or Warner Brothers as put you in the movie's fucking programming. It's oddly like HBO Max in a weird way, which is kind of funny, because it's almost like Warner Brothers almost poking fun at themselves for a moment. And that's the funny thing. Like, the only bits that are actually kind of hilarious are like a few one-liners, a few sight gags here and there, and just how the Warner Brothers executives act, because it's like, yeah, that's how they really act. Because you got Sarah Silverman playing one, and she goes from saying like the algorithm is the greatest thing ever to saying, oh, it's stupid, it's idiotic, and I'm so glad LeBron said it's a dumb idea. Okay, so the algorithm gets upset because LeBron says that, right? And so it fucking sucks him and his kid into the algorithm. And of course, his kid is all into video games and stuff like that, and LeBron's not. And the setup right away is really fucking simplified compared to what you just said, Script, as far as the Michael Jordan story. In this one, it's basically that LeBron wants his kids to work too hard to be basketball stars like him, and he ignores the fact that his kids are more into video games. That's basically the plot. So basically, through that whole turning of events, LG Rhythm uses the kid to make the game that he has to go up against. And of course, LeBron's got to put his team together, and nobody wants to help him but the Looney Tunes. But he goes to the Looney Tunes town, and the only one there is Bugs Bunny, because all the other Looney Tunes left. So we have to go through this like fucking half-ass fucking Blues Brothers thing, where we got to go collect the Looney Tunes off of various places, everything from the Matrix to Wonder Woman world to everything else. And it just becomes fucking tedious. The jokes don't land for shit. The voices are horrible. Bugs sounds like some old dude. Like, I have no idea why they fucking he does not sound like Bugs at all. Spoilers, there's nothing to really fucking spoil, guys. It's the same goddamn movie. Same fucking movie over again. Like, the only jokes that are any good are callbacks to the original film.
So wait, like Warner Brothers is going to try and take over the cartoon world of Merry Melodies, even though they own that already? Like,
no, basically he that's the thing. It's so convoluted in how they get to it. That's where all this extra half hour of fucking nonsense is needed. It's not Billy West, Ben Dowdy. No, it's somebody else completely. The only voice that sounded any good was Daffy. Daffy was the only one that was close. and I didn't check if that was still Billy West or not, but whoever they got to do everybody else's voices sucked donkey balls. None of them sound anything like the characters, at least close enough to my ears. And of course, changing Lola to Zendaya was just pointless. And they make her out to be some super duper character she's really not. I mean, yeah, she was one of the better basketball players in the first film, but they make her like the end all be all character they need to get to win. And then, of course, the whole point is like, you know, the Looney Tunes. It's real simple. It's the same plot elements basically leading up to the end. So like, it just kind of conforms in different ways. And a lot of the cameos get distracting as fuck. So, cause like half the time you're sitting there, like, no, your eyes kind of like darting off to the sides and shit. You know what I mean? Cause you're seeing all these characters you recognize instead of actually watching the gameplay and the movie play out. And then there's times where it's fucking hilarious because, whoa, what the hell? My phone went off. Anyway, and then there's other times where the crowd characters are not following the action on the court, so they're completely looking off to like the left of the screen, and the shit's happening on the right side of the screen. So they're cheering on and looking at. They're like, how the fuck did somebody let that get through? This movie's 2 fucking years old. They could have fixed this by now. And I've heard of so many changes from behind the scenes that I have no idea what the hell they did. But a lot of the cameos we were promised in the first kind of bits were like really chopped out to nothing. Voldemort's not even in there. There's other things that got changed around and switched around. And then there's rumors that people who aren't even getting
credit
for works they've done and stuff. So this whole movie is turning into a fucking mess. Not just on the screen, but behind the scenes. And I have a feeling this is going to be one of those movies that's going to historically go down as not just one of the worst movies of the year or the decade, but maybe of all fucking times. I hated this fucking movie. Fucking hated it. Bill Murray was in one bit, and I'm not going to tell anybody because it's kind of so fucking stupid. He's really not even in it. Like,
so did you get to the part where Zendaya actually VO'd over the top of the original performance of someone that had already done it for Lola Bunny?
No, I didn't get to that point. Did they have the original actor do the voice?
Yeah, the voice actor had recorded everything from again, these are reports, don't know this for sure, and that's why I'm asking script. Have you heard something similar that they brought in Zendaya later to do a VO on top of what was already done?
No, I haven't actually followed anything on Space Jam. Okay. It just has never crossed my transom.
I wouldn't be surprised because they did the same thing for Chipmunks and other movies. It would not surprise me in the least. And her, if I remember right, her casting announcement came very, very fucking late in the game.
Yeah,
like, the movie was shot in like 2017 or 18, and the movie was being finished up in 2019 or whatever. That's when people were working on it, from my recollection. Because this movie's been around for a while. It's just been sitting there, and all the references are very fucking dated. There's only one shot that they did. Obviously, they updated. They have the Scoob poster when they're rolling up to the fucking lot. And you could have done that easily with CGI or reshot that scene because it doesn't show any faces in it whatsoever. Sonequa Martin Green is in it. She can kind of act.
LeBron's wife, right?
Yeah. I mean, Don Cheadle is just chewing the scenery. I mean, I guess he's probably the best part of the movie, to be honest with you. His character is the only one who feels like he's motivated and is in the movie, if that makes sense. Because the rest of these people are just there. They don't even feel like they're in the movie. Like, LeBron is the worst fucking actor. He's so fucking full of himself. It's not even funny. Like, they call him King 100 million times in this fucking movie. I got so sick of it. It got like just like, are you serious? You know, and then anyway, I don't want to get too many. Yeah, Pepe got axed, but you could still see the Droogs in the background from Clockwork Orange and all that shit. Like, and then they got a lot of stuff, like tons of Game of Thrones references here and there thrown in. It's like, how are kids supposed to get this shit?
Well, not only that, how disconnected are they from what happened to the popularity of that particular entity?
Well, the first Space Jam got lucky, and the few movie ones they did was like, I think from I remember was like Pulp Fiction and stuff. You know what I mean? Like, and that's a movie that's stuck around. People get that one. You know, there's very few references from that first
Well, they
movie.
did the commercial references of it. Like
Yeah, they
everything of
did.
the film was like Pulp Fiction had a lot of commercials, so kids saw that because the commercials were harmless. And what they did in the Space Jam is they just copied what was in the commercial for their stuff, which is like the music,
Right.
the quick shots, the stuff that kids would get. Like if they tried to do the whole like killing Phil Lamar in the back of the car with the head blowing off, no kid would get that in Space Jams, and they'd be horrified.
Clearly.
Yeah.
Well, no, and just the way they did the first one, the tone just happened to work. And I'm trying to think of a joke that would be kind of out of date, and I can't think of one, to be honest with you.
Well, again, it's the difference between the references to the things that are topical to the things that are evergreen. I mean, if you want something to be durable, you have to connect with something evergreen. And right now they're trying to destroy everything that's evergreen. So that's going to be harder and harder. When you reach back to this point in time to try to make reference to things, you're not going to have a lot because there's not going to be a lot of original stuff because they were busy destroying everything that was original. So,
yeah, I mean, first of all, it's the most unnecessary sequel since Weekend at Bernie's 2. All right, that's the best I can give this fucking movie. And I'll watch Weekend at Bernie's 2 10 times over before I watch this piece of shit again. I love the fucking Looney Tunes, right?
I would rather watch Tom Cruise's Cocktail than,
I'd rather watch Tom Cruise's cock. I know. Well, there you go. It was horrible. It was a horrible motherfucking movie. And just like I was told, the whole thing with them going into 3D was stupid. Everything was stupid. It was just an excuse to get LeBron from cartoon, which none of it made sense because when Michael Jordan showed up in the first movie, he wasn't a cartoon.
Because he's not a cartoon.
Exactly. They have LeBron turn into a cartoon when he goes to Looney Tune World. So they have him as a cartoon for like 10, 15, 20 minutes, and that's where the whole 3D thing comes in. Like, that's the other thing, is they don't even get to the Looney Tunes for like almost 30 minutes. Like 20 almost minutes or more. There's this whole shit ton of buildup that it's like, how did they manage to get through all this shit in the first film so quickly? And actually, there's more story in the first film if you really think about it. Because this is just so drug out, and the game is almost in real fucking time. It's like, because the jokes just drag out in the game because they're not funny. They're not funny in the least.
But see, that's some of the problem with the way that exposition is done nowadays. I mean, there are two really bad practices. And I know Script Doctor can fill us in on exactly what they're doing wrong, but it's just doesn't sound good, Tom. Doesn't sound good.
Well, with a family film, a lot of writers assume that the exposition can be on the nose because kids have to get it. But the problem is that you don't write a family film for kids, you write it for adults that kids can enjoy and that adults can enjoy as well. Like you have to hit all of them. And as a result, that means you cannot dumb things down. You gotta lay out some specific breadcrumbs so that the kids can pick up and learn what's going on. And hopefully those breadcrumbs are funny enough and over the kid's head that the parents can enjoy it as well.
I mean, I could tell you some of the best jokes in the film, and they're really dumb. Here's a perfect example, right? This is a prime example of the best jokes in this movie, right? When Don Cheadle's like, King Kong ain't got nothing on me. They cut, of course, right away to King Kong going, humph, like arms crossed and looks away like all upset. Like, that's the best this movie can render. That's the kind of level of
over a bad joke.
Exactly.
That was a joke?
Exactly my point. Like, there's a few chuckles here and there, and I won't even tell you guys the best joke, but it's going to date itself so badly, and there's no way kids would know the movie. Should I just tell everybody? I don't give a fuck at this point. Like, one of the better jokes in the movie is pretty much the Mad Max joke.
Well,
it's where you have when they go to, because I said, remember they go on this like Blues Brothers journey to get the other Looney Tunes? Yeah. Fucking Roadrunner and Wile E. Coyote are in Mad Max Road Fury Road, because they're all in different movies is where they're at.
Right.
So that was one of the best jokes, because you can show up and because it's like they fit because of the desert. But it's like, if you're a kid and you have never seen that movie, it's so fucking disconnected.
Why are they in other movies?
Because that was the thing. Okay, yeah, it's set up like L Rhythm went down to the Looney Tunes world and talked all the Looney Tunes to going into other movies.
Oh.
And so Bugs was the only one who didn't want to go, so he stayed. So like that's the whole Yeah, and Sean, you're right. You can't spoil something that's already rotten. That's a good point. There really isn't nothing to spoil in the movie, though. You know, it's just references. It's not actual jokes. Exactly, Natasha. It's not. There was no like real setup and a punchline to where I could really tell you a real great joke in the film, because there's not. And the ones, like I said, they're all sight gags and references to either, you know, just not. Yeah, Gail's Gamer said Rick and Morty even make an appearance. Like it's like reference the movie constantly. I mean, you got. I think even Gal Gadot probably did her own voice in it, for fuck's sake, even though it's a cartoon. Because it sure does sound like her. It's basically they recreate the scene from the opening of Wonder Woman 84 in it. Like, that's what this is. It's just a bunch of recreations of other shit to where they literally put the Looney Tunes within the actual films. They're not recreating them. They literally have like Granny in the Matrix and, like I said, and Wile E. Coyote and Roadrunner in fucking Mad Max the movie. It's not like they recreated. No, it's in the actual film itself. They just superimpose them over the actors. Yeah, kind of like Ready Player One almost.
Wow.
It is. It's referenced the movie even more than Ready Player One. At least Ready Player One had a reason for them being there. You know what I mean? Even as tangential as it was, or however you want to put it. But it was just random as fuck on top of everything else. You know, and it makes Bugs out to be this kind of asshole, and then it kind of takes away from him at the end. And it's really, they treat Bugs like he's not the same character he normally would be. It's not Bugs Bunny at all. I don't know. Oh, and don't get me started. You sent me something about the soundtrack. The soundtrack sucks balls.
Yeah, but that's Rolling Stone, dude.
Here we go. Let me bring this up.
Unfortunately, it's MSN.
Talk about probably, and you know what? That's another thing this movie had. No reason to have one of the greatest fucking soundtracks of all fucking time. You got a song on there about the Monstars, for fuck's sake, and it's a great goddamn song.
Yeah.
Hit 'em high, hit 'em high. Yeah, come on.
Well, they talk about the songs from the previous film and how iconic they were.
Yeah.
Yeah, this article is just the lambast.
Oh, and the Goon Squad ain't got shit on the Monstars.
That's so funny. Yeah.
Like, they almost go out of their way to try and redo the Monstars with the Goon Squad. It's almost like unbelievably laughable how they do it. It's just revolting in some ways. Okay, in a 2019 documentary about the making of 2 Chainz rapper Go, The League was released to Rap Public. The documentary features LeBron James as faux A&R guy directing Titty Boy. So this isn't his first acting gig, huh? Titty Bo? Is that how it's said? Titty Boy? Titty Boy? On how many tracks he should put on the record. LeBron talks to Chainz about his idea of releasing a deluxe version of the album 2 weeks later, as if he invented fire. Thank you for taking this ride with me. Here's 2 more. It was hilarious, goofy, and completely in earnest. LeBron was doing his version of the satirical pop star documentary. It was also exactly what LeBron detractors thought was going to happen when he signed with the Lakers. It was less about basketball and more about the worldwide branding he could do in Hollywood. That's what this fucking Space Jam is. It's all about his branding. Enter the Space Jam 2 soundtrack. Take a look at some of this lineup. Chance the Rapper and John Legend, both of whom have never saw a check they didn't like. Gee, who wrote this? I like this. Jason Bieber. Both of whom have never saw G-Eazy, Jonas Brothers, and Joyner Lucas, who must have won this opportunity via contest on YouTube.
Probably.
The soundtrack to the original Space Jam featured good music, not just good music, but actually great music for probably some of the best R&B at that time, you know, and hip hop and all that kind of shit. I mean, it was a pretty goddamn good album. Becomes a generational totem. What would that movie be without I Believe I Can Fly or Seals Fly Like an Eagle? They're both songs that added to the mystique of Michael Jordan. LeBron has, and they're still used to this day for shit. A genuinely inspiring story of making it out of any of the advantages people outside his environment took for granted. Why doesn't this movie try to add to it? The album fails in that way, and it makes me take it as personal as Michael Jordan before an elimination game. There are attempts to summon I don't even want to keep reading this, even though it's well written. It's just fucking depressing. There are attempts to summon that kind of inspirational mood on the settle of the score. Rapper Cadre offers a new me. Nothing's impossible. Go harder, so I go farther. But it sounds like he is doing much more than taking over the lane that Common chose after he started making music for liberal white people. Oh my God. Man, this is savage. If that leading moment wasn't enough, Chance the Rapper joins the impending capitalism doom to sound like even the worst version of Kendrick Persian's Somehow Impossible. The Jonas the Jonas Brothers track has them sounding particularly washed, and Nick Jonas blandly telling us that you can turn him on like a TV. The inclusion of Brockhampton's song I'm not going to read a whole review of an album, but
No. But I thought it was really telling between the headline and a couple of the paragraphs. I was like, oh my God.
An insult to children. This movie is an insult to children. You know who else is an insult to children?
No.
Children in China who make all the things that we use every day, especially LeBron. That's all I'm gonna say on that. I'm just gonna leave this up here for a moment. Yeah. Anyway, Andre,
oh my gosh, poignant.
Are we sure R. Kelly isn't in this movie? Says Hyper Guyver 2. I feel like I'm getting pissed on. Yes. Thank you. I've made that joke before, but it's something similar. But no, it's true. Like, oh my God. Let's see what you guys are saying. It's dead time. Can we move on? Yeah, Thanos, I think we're moving on. Space Jam 2, a tax write-off legacy.
Well,
we're like destroying a legacy.
We're not even talking about a film that comes out in just a couple of days, in 4 days, actually.
Which one is the Suicide Squad?
Snake Eyes.
Old Snake Eyes. Is that already coming out?
Yeah, July 23rd.
And I can only get to a few super chats before Andre gets back, but STR Red Wolf says, as said last week, NPR rated this movie as a vanity project. Yes, it is. On both LeBron and Warner Brothers' part. Apparently, we need to refund Tom's money on how accurate that was.
Oh, man.
And I see some of you have seen this, said it's awful. Yeah, it was complete dog shit, Dr. Coffin Nails. It really was. It is the worst movie of the decade so far.
Look,
I know we're early into it, but still.
Think about the snapback that happened, a few days ago on the Wrap about, the bitter rebukes to it wasn't made for you, 50-year-old white guy. I mean, they're still trotting out the same story.
It was though, in a way.
Yeah, I mean, again, you're playing on the nostalgia of an older generation to gin up interest in the film, and maybe that isn't the case in today's narrow worldview, but that's the honest truth. Especially when this film was done 2 years ago, as you said, Tom, and it would have released into nostalgia. It wouldn't have released on a streaming platform likely at the same time it went into theaters. And the reason it was universally panned, I think, is because people saw it for free and they could beat the heck out of it. I'm sure there are some people that like it, but it did not perform well for the audiences or the critics, and it is. Speaking of
performing well, it did about 35 million at the box office was the intake for it.
30, yeah, it went. It was 30. Oh my gosh, I had it here a minute ago. If you'd asked me before,
I think it was like 33 or 35. I can't remember which.
Yeah, it was. Yeah,
which is not horrible, but it's not going to make its 150 million back. No way. It costs 150 million to make. Script. Do you know you haven't followed this at all? You have zero interest in it, I'm sure.
No, I'm not into anything LeBron James.
No, I don't think anybody is.
Nobody.
Quit mixing shit I like with things I don't like. So Andre, I know you had zero interest in this film because you didn't even really care for the first one all that much, and I can understand why, considering you probably have no real reason to attach yourself to it outside of the Looney Tunes, and that's even probably tangential at best.
Entirely correct. That isn't like I grew up caring about the Looney Tunes. Like, for instance, the first one with that whole basketball thing and stuff like that. That's I don't even have the soccer gene, let alone the basketball gene. Like in Norway back in the 90s, I barely knew what basketball was. Like I knew of like the but yeah, of like the stars in it, I knew vaguely of them, and even like that song selling the movie, like that rap thing, like that mixing that up with Looney Tunes, it was like, yeah, I don't really get this stuff right here. So it was a movie that.
Are you talking about bugging?
Yeah, maybe. But anyway, point is, I felt then what has been a catchphrase later on, it wasn't made for me. So I saw it, did not care for it, but it wasn't for me. So I didn't care one way or the other. I kind of did like Looney Tunes back in action.
That I can understand, yeah.
That was cool. I like that one. And I do love me some classic Looney Tunes cartoons. Oh, hell yeah.
And the Omesis, if I'm saying that, yeah, I love them too. And that's one of the few reasons why I think Space Jam 1 did work, was because they at least stayed true to the characters. And that's one of the reasons why I adore Looney Tunes back in action, which is an overlooked film, is just how fucking hilarious that movie is from beginning to end. And it's a pure Looney Tune movie. Like, it's the looniest of all Looney movie. Like, it captures everything perfectly about the Looney Tunes. That's my feeling on it. Now, the movie itself is debatable. It's just the gags, the way that the characters are treated, and all that kind of stuff is great. Now, the movie itself is kind of a meh, but anyhow, no, I love the movie otherwise.
So yeah, I didn't really care for the first one. It wasn't made for me. And this new one, I see absolutely no reason to be excited for it, because it has everything that I did not like about the first one, and LeBron James.
Right. So anyhow,
yeah.
I got like the last 2 super chats, but I wasn't able to catch any in between there. So we got.
Okay, that's fine. We'll grab them now when I'm here, and then we can talk a little bit about Loki, because I assume that you probably said everything there is to say about Looney Tunes at this point in time.
Outside of whatever we get from super chats, but yeah.
Yeah. Next one is then from, now we're going back in time to the classics. Dash D's says for $5 Andre, I have seen the word mother bear in Swedish in a game I was looking at. Would you please pronounce it for me? Mother bear in Swedish. Mamma björn, I guess. Yeah, I think that would be right. If we have any Swedes in the chat, please feel free to connect me. But I think in Swedish it would be Mamma Björn. I think that's about right. And then Story to Screen Movie Review says, how do we live in a world where the Snake Eyes trailer looks better than MCU's Shang-Chi? That trailer looks like CGI dog crap. Excited for Snake Eyes? Gentlemen, what did you think about the Snake Eyes trailer, and are you excited for the movie?
I wish I was as blind as Snake Eyes after seeing that trailer.
Snake Eyes isn't blind; he's mute.
Yeah, I was about to say, I don't think he's blind.
Yeah, I wish I was blind after seeing. No, I'm kidding. I don't care. I have zero fucks.
That's Rutger Hauer in his samurai film in the 80s.
Yeah, Blind Fury.
Blind Fury, yeah.
That was a great movie. That was an amazing.
Let's talk about Blind Fury instead. Okay.
Yeah, that was a fantastic Satoichi remake.
Yeah. No, I mean, Snake Eyes looks like it's going to have a bit more traditional style effects for the film, but I don't know how accurate that's going to be because it's only based off the trailer. But yeah, Marvel Disney for the most part is going in a very different direction with their effects-driven stuff. So yeah, a lot of it's going to be composites with CGI and digital models and things of that nature, and not a whole lot of practical in-camera stuff. So it's going to be that rough stage that we saw in the late 90s, early 2000s, where they were also adding in new digital effects that felt out of place with the rest of the films.
I mean, when is that movie coming out in the States?
Which one?
Snake Eyes.
This week, ain't it?
Yeah, it's the 23rd. It's July 23rd.
It just came up on us. Like I didn't even. I thought they were just starting to film not that long ago. I didn't realize they're already done with the bastard.
Yeah, no, it's not. No, I wondered because it's coming out here on Friday, and I was like wondering, is this like a case where it comes out earlier internationally? But I guess not. Then it's just that no one cares.
No, nobody has any fucks to give about this movie.
Yeah, I think it's going to underperform because it didn't grab anybody. It lacks gravitas. But
the last two G.I. Joe films didn't really do all that much.
No, that's true.
It's true. And I like the second of them, kind of.
And there's no accounting for Andre's taste sometimes, because he also liked the second Ninja Turtles movie too.
Well, only kind of. I like it more than
only kind of.
Yeah,
I watched your fucking review. You're like, I want to suck its dick. No, I'm kidding. No,
I mean, I didn't like it so much.
That made me cry when I watched that review. I'm like, how can Andre like this movie? I threw shit at the screen for fuck's sake, and I was yelling at it. I'm like, are you fucking insane? Like, I was yelling at the movie, but yeah.
I'm just not that big a fan of you. One more time. I'm just not that big a fan of the Turtles as you. That's
Somebody
what I was trying
that.
To say there.
I want it for blackmail later. No, I'm just
blackmail. All right.
I'm just kidding. You see, Andre don't like me. No, no. Well, that just reminds me of how sad, speaking of the things like that mix together that we like and things we don't like. I showed you that canceled TMNT meets Motu comic, a shot of that I sent you.
I saw. Yeah.
That would have been interesting, I think.
I'm perfectly happy to see that canceled.
No, I'm not. Hey, the Batman one actually worked out. I was surprised. I wasn't expecting it.
Yeah, so did the Savage Dragon one, but that I would expect.
Yeah, but I mean, I don't know. If you could see, I could see the Turtles dealing with you. Well, maybe not. I don't know. Maybe that's just too much of a good thing. You might be right on that.
Yeah.
Now what is fucking Scotty talking about here? Culture?
Oh, it's just the Snake Eyes. Just Snake Eyes. If you want
it. The Snake Eyes is Scotty talking even more.
Yeah. I mean, it's not anything considerable. I just thought it would be.
Well,
that's my fourth article of the month. It better be something good.
Snake Eyes.
For what it's worth, halfway decent, especially COVID standards. 31 million is what Space Jam made. Slightly notable in that one of the first really big movies of 2021 that was always intended to open in 2021 was the previous Biggie. Somebody else read this. My eyes are shot for today, please.
You'd have to control scroll wheel.
Oh, can you just bring it up on your end?
Oh, I could. Yeah, hang on.
Well, I can do it also here if you want.
Yeah, Final people don't like me reading anyway, so.
Final Snake Eyes trailer sells ninjas first, G.I. Joe second. For what it's worth, the halfway decent, especially by COVID standards, 31.65 million domestic debut of Space Jam was slightly notable in that it was one of the first really big movies. Yeah, you got this one already. Blah, 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 blah. Unless I missed one, I think Space Jam is the first studio tentpole that actually opened in 2021 without a single prior date change. It was slated for July 16th, and that's when it's opened. Likewise, this weekend's two biggies, Snake Eyes and Old, are opening exactly as initially scheduled. Speaking of which, Paramount just dropped a third and final trailer for Snake Eyes G.I. Joe Origins. It's a markedly better trailer, both because of the sheer amount of action and emphasis it puts on the ninja-specific thrills versus G.I. Joe connections. I'm seeing the movie on Tuesday night, and even though I'm not the world's biggest fan of Robert Schwentke, I will say Red is fun and Flight Plan has aged well, I'm walking in with my arms uncrossed. The 105-second trailer notes the G.I. Joe connection, but gives most of its time to setting up the specific how Henry Golding was adopted into a League of Heroic Ninjas narrative versus much in the way of cinematic universe connections. Do audiences want another G.I. Joe movie after Rise of the Cobra, which was 300 mil on 175 million budget, and Retaliation, 375 million on 130
That's worldwide
budget.
That's worldwide.
Well, I'm guessing, yeah, I'm guessing.
Damn.
I would like to point out, though, I said I like the second one better, and the second one grossed more and cost less.
Yeah, but neither one of them made money. If you really look at it.
No, I know, but the second one lost less. So there's that.
Yeah, in that respect, yes. Considering, yes.
At the same time, though, like, is there anything more interesting to say about this thing, or is it just like Scotty rambling without saying anything interesting? It's not like Ninja Assassin was a huge hit, grossing blah 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 blah, talking about ninja movies of the past. Think, to varying degrees, Tom Cruise in The Last Samurai, Hugh Jackman in The Wolverine, Christian Bale in Batman Begins, and Sean Connery's James Bond in You Only Live Twice. Even then, as seen with The Hunted, you need some IP or big deal angle beyond the ninja hook, which is good news for Snake Eyes. You can argue that G.I. Joe is that IP. Hell, without getting into the nitty-gritty of ethnicity, Henry Golding is half British and half Malaysian. So it kinda applies as non-Japanese man becoming a super-duper ninja badass. I'm not expecting any box office miracles from Snake Eyes. Even pre-COVID, it was the kind of project that was frankly IP for the sake of IP. It also was a case of using increased inclusivity to justify unrequested extensions of past their prime or already rejected franchises or brands. Neither of the prior G.I. Joe movies were huge hits even when audiences went to the movies just to go to the movies, and when mega-budget adaptations of kid-friendly IP was still somewhat unique. Now it's just that week's big theatrical release. However, if I'm wrong, it'll be because Snake Eyes is the most popular G.I. Joe character and enough of a marquee character to justify interest in Henry Golding portraying him. Moreover, the very fact that we rarely had a Hollywood ninja flick will work in its favor as new-to-you spectacle for much of the audience. Think, relatively speaking, how Disney's Pirates of the Caribbean was a smash partially because Pirates movies were new to you, to a generation that had rejected the likes of Pirates and Cutthroat Island. Of course, Occam's razor may still apply, but ask me again on July 24th. So basically what he's saying is that ninja movies don't really perform all that well unless they're coupled with an IP, and even then it's not certain, but hey, we'll know the day after it opens.
Well, here's some good news for you, Andre, because if I remember right, didn't you say you liked the Jackass movies?
I did, yeah.
Jackass Forever in theaters, October 22nd.
I have to say that Jackass 3D, I keep on forgetting it, but now that you reminded me, like, the best 3D experiences I ever had in a cinema were Tron Legacy, Dread, and Jackass 3D. That was a movie that really knew how to use its 3D effects, for better and worse.
You know, that's one 3D. I wonder if I have that on 3D Blu-ray or not. That's a good question. I've never been a huge fan of them, but that's one I probably should get.
I mean, this one is going to be a little bit sad, though, because it's like one thing when you have, like, kids in their late 20s, early 30s, but now, like, these dudes are, what, 50s?
Yeah. And isn't there like some feud right now with them and, like, Ram? What is his name?
I think one of them died.
Bam. Well, yeah, one of them did die, but, like, Bam or whatever, they're having...
Yeah. No, Bam Margera, he didn't die, but Bam Margera,
they're having issues with him right now.
They're having a legal battle right now, and I think one of the guys, the original guys, did pass away. So
yeah.
Well, is Johnny Knoxville there? Will Steve will be there?
Yeah, like Johnny will be there and stuff like that. But yeah, so
yeah, because as long as Johnny and Steve-O is there, that's kind of like the important ones.
Yeah, and they didn't let Bam be in the movie because he fell into back into drugs and stuff like that. And then, yeah, Ryan Dunn was the one that died. That's right. Yeah. So, yeah, the slow-mo sequences in Dread. That's why I also loved Ant-Man. They had some great 3D sequences in Ant-Man.
I honestly wanted more, but
Yeah, I wish they would have been a little more, but like
yeah.
of all the Marvel movies, between that and Guardians are probably my two favorite 3D films out of the Marvels.
Oh yeah, for sure. But like I feel like both Ant-Man and Doctor Strange, they could have done like more with the 3D effects. Like
clearly. Oh, Doctor Strange is another good one too in 3D. Oh yeah. Forgot about that one. But yeah, so was there any more news to talk about, or did we have
I did tease the Loki thing because what
that's right. Yes.
that and script, I really want to hear your take on this, because it was recently revealed that the director of, I think, the entirety of Loki season 1 will not be returning for season 2. And then more recently it has been rumored, so I stress only rumored, that head writer and showrunner Michael Waldron also might not return. But again, that's a rumor. It's just the director who won't be returning. That is
no. Normally, when it comes to Marvel, I'm not too surprised when it comes to churn, because I mean they've even had a few different directors here and there. They'll kick like a franchise off, like they had Kenneth Branagh do Thor, and they had Joe Johnston do Captain America. But until you had like the Russos and James Gunn and stuff like that, you didn't, outside of
obviously, but those are movies. This is TV.
That's there's a different parent company that was running Marvel at that time when they had.
Oh yeah. I was just gonna say,
like the Russos were a chance, and so was James Gunn.
Because, I was gonna say outside of Favreau and Joss Whedon, though, there was no real returning directors other before them. Is what I was trying to say. But sorry, go ahead.
Well, I mean, the only rumor the rumor that I've heard is that Michael Waldron is getting some offers now, some more offers. One of them is someone's spouting about that he's probably going to be working with Kevin Feige on a Star Wars film. I don't buy that yet. That there's too early to tell. But he's got another TV series that he's doing with Stephen Amell, who's from Arrow, called Heels, which I don't know if that's going to be all that great. And he's still signed on, and as far as I know, he's turned in the latest draft for Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness. I don't think he's going to be really going anywhere.
But isn't that movie filming already?
Yeah, it probably is.
I mean, it's due to be released in like May or something, isn't it?
Yeah, early next year.
Yeah, so like I would have liked to think that scripts must be already locked down by now.
Pretty much. I think the only thing they've been doing is like dialogue stuff at the moment. Because again, this is about the Marvel pre-production formula, where they know the action set pieces, they start getting those all set together, they know their cast way ahead of time, because Kevin Feige makes all that information, and it's basically, okay, you now fill in the blanks, and then we rewrite that until we get to when we need to shoot it. And if they like some stuff already, it's like, okay, we like this, but we got to go back and do that. It's weird process, because it's not a normal process, because they do have their own Marvel writers room, and that has a lot of turnover, but that's turnover by contract, not so much by like termination, so to speak. So like one of the most prominent examples that I know of is Nicole Perlman. So she'd been in the Marvel writers room for a few years, and she wrote the first draft of Guardians of the Galaxy before James Gunn was hired and came in and did a rewrite. And
she was the one who started that whole project, if memory serves.
Yes. And I mean, she's a pretty decent writer, but the thing is, like, Marvel hasn't brought her or anyone else from that time back, because that's not what they do. They like to get their writers for cheap, especially if they've got some talent. And then as soon as they're done, they kick them to the side. But this one is a bit more different, because it's Michael Waldron, who he is kind of like he's got a lot of good connections, especially with Dan Harmon and Justin Roiland, because he worked on Rick and Morty, which was this huge cartoon hit in town. And he's parlayed that into with his agents, and parlayed that into a couple of really good jobs with Marvel. And I think they're going to try and keep him on for at least till the end of Multiverse of Madness. Like, I think once Multiverse of Madness and then season 2 of Loki is wrapped up, they will pretty much say, okay, your contract is over. Good luck. Make some other stuff, and if we want you, we'll call. And then he's moving on, because right now what Disney's formula is getting young, fresh people that are easy to control, to paint the house, so to speak, and then move on, because they've got Kevin Feige and his team kind of doing the actual directing and planning of what this series is going to be.
Yeah, it's not really a directing gig that you get with Marvel to do one of these, is it? Now, I mean, it is.
No, except it's basically mostly prepackaged. I would say the exceptions right now are James Gunn, and I would also throw in there Sam Raimi. I would assume that they're going to let him do his thing. I would not be surprised that as soon as he was signed on and the ink dried, they're like, okay, these are the previs of the action sequences we have planned. Make them Sam Raimi-ish. And then that's what he did for however many months before they actually started main principal photography or any of the final setups and for their actual production. And yeah, that's kind of what they do. But for everyone else, like especially with this Kate Herron, who is very green director. Gosh, not very good. I was actually mentioning this on Nina Infinity stream last night, how there are certain shots and techniques that you just don't do in movies. Like if there's two people standing next to each other, you don't do an extreme wide where you see their feet and everything and whatnot, unless you're Stanley Kubrick. And Stanley Kubrick does that because there's more things going on or there's something else in the frame besides that. But you don't ever get like their feet in like a medium extreme two-shot type of thing. Like it's just weird cinematography, and those are usually like the director's choices. And if the cinematographer doesn't care, he just wants their paycheck, they just say tack with it and do whatever the director wants. There's a lot of examples of that also in Black Widow, especially the scene we all like to talk about of the CGI head. You never do a two-shot like that. There's no reason to. So yeah.
Well, that's what they get for hiring like basically grunt people to do all these things. What surprises me is that there's obviously someone like higher up that are kind of like failing with their oversight for allowing that.
Pretty much. It almost comes to the point where I would say I suspect that Disney at this point is looking at Marvel as a brand so powerful it can get away with whatever laziness.
So they're basically stopping compromising the qualities, figuring, screw you, we're Marvel, you'll come anyway, right?
Yeah, basically like what, fashion brands like Nike and Reebok and Adidas had done. Like, you're buying the name, you're not buying the quality, and I think that's where some mentality over at Marvel is happening right now. And I would even say, yeah, Kevin Feige is kind of buying into that at the same time, because again, the attention to detail, the craftsmanship, it's been kind of lacking since. I mean, Infinity War was kind of the last hurrah, but I think that was just, that was the last team of the Russos and their writers to be able to do something. And since that film, everything's been kind of lacking, like especially on the TV side. But Far From Home was kind of weak. Didn't have the charm that it should have. Relying too much on Iron Man's influence there. Black Widow is just a mess, and so many things. Like it's a real mess of a film.
Yeah, as I said earlier in the stream, they better have hopes for Spider-Man and Doctor Strange. Which incidentally has finished shooting, because the next two to come out, maybe they'll surprise us, but personally, I've written off both Shang-Chi and the Eternals already.
Well, Shang-Chi is written by Dave Callahan, who he is the main writer. He is the screenwriter of Wonder Woman 84 and Mortal Kombat 2021. I mean, a lot of people.
This is not a good thing, is it?
No. Well, a lot of people like to say, "Oh, it's Patty Jenkins and Jeff Johns." Like, no, story by credit is not the same as screenwriting credit. Story by credit is like what we're doing right now. We talk about a movie, about ideas, what we want to see, and then a screenwriter takes those ideas and tries to put them on script form for it. Just like with Black Widow, Jack Schaefer, who she was on WandaVision. She did not write Black Widow. She just had her ideas, and then the other guy came in and tried to make it all work. And
tried and failed.
Pretty much, yeah. And then the director of that also doesn't know how to shoot a movie. So, yeah, it's just about right. Primarily, it's all about risk aversion for Disney right now. They think the lowest risk they have is basically as long as everyone does exactly what they say and how they want it, they will be fine. And that is antithetical to creativity, because the whole thing about the reason Marvel Studios exists is because someone took a risk by getting like a controversial actor who's just on the mend, Robert Downey Jr. You get Jon Favreau, who's never done an actioneer like this before. You have a character that is D-list at the time, so like you're taking a risk by investing $60 million into him, and then on top of that, which is also crazy, is that Robert Downey Jr. kept throwing out pages of the script that they had to rewrite the morning of because the dialogue was terrible according to him, and they were literally shooting it almost in continuity, day by day. And yeah, like they had a pretty decent movie. I mean, granted, there's a lot of issues with regards to Obadiah Stane and whatnot, but no, like it started the MCU, and it just grew from there. And now there's not, and you think that formula, or at least not so much that formula, but that idea of taking a risk and addressing, some interesting takes of like a Phoenix Rising storyline, or what they were trying to do with Iron Man 2 with like, overcoming alcoholism, that would probably make the Marvel brand stronger. But Disney is averse to those types of things because, number one, they're a family company. So you can have serious issues, but it's got to be tamed down so that children can watch it, because they don't respect children, even though that's their main source of income is through them by parents buying
Ripping
stuff.
out uteruses is okay, but don't you dare show no alcohol.
Exactly, yeah. Or blood.
Well, yeah, well,
And Scarlett Johansson's Black Widow is so perfect that after she breaks her nose, she can reset it perfectly to the point where there's no bruising, no damage, and it's perfectly aligned as it was before she smacked her head into a desk.
Yeah, but she just doesn't have any sense of smell yet or afterwards, because that nerve by implication ain't growing back again.
It repaired itself already. And then the other part too, Scarlett Johansson, she's 5'2", but the actor playing the villain is 5'9", so we can't make that villain taller than her. So we got to basically do a crappy reshoot and re-edit to resize
and use the dude.
And yeah, we'll bring in the 5'3" stunt double, and then put the head back up. That was originally done the shot over top of theirs.
And then it's so good that they, for the future, that they found someone even shorter to replace her with.
Well, not only that, here's the thing. So the reason that if you take a look at that shot, you see their feet and both Scarlett Johansson's feet and the stuntman's feet. You don't need to do that. You could have just done a tighter frame, like above the knee. You could put Scarlett Johansson on an apple box, which is what they call them. They're just boxes that you stand on top of, and then you get your eye line shot in there. But no, you do this extreme wide, and then you realize, oh yeah, that doesn't look good because the bad guy looks way too big compared to Scarlett, so the audience is not going to believe that she can stand toe-to-toe to them, and probably also some ego in there as well. So we have to shrink down the villain to make Scar show seem more evenly matched, and it's just so stupid.
Well, and honestly, I would say it's even dumber than that, but like they do that for men as well.
They do, but they don't show the feet. Like we've all seen, I guess, from The Irishman, some of the behind-the-scenes footage with Robert De Niro and those basically like Frankenstein boots, like the 7 or 8 inches next to like Joe Pesci. Like that's why you don't do a wide shot like that. Is if you want an actor or character to be taller and more imposing, but they physically aren't, you got to make adjustments. And you usually do that before you take the shot, not after in editing.
Well, they had to be very careful in shots where they were shooting shorter than normal actors, like Tom Cruise, for example, in Top Gun when they're walking down the runway, and you see that their feet and everything. You have to be careful that you're trying to portray these people as what they are. And
notice in every running scene of Tom Cruise, he's always the only one in the scene running. Because if anyone's running next to him, you kind of can't hide the size difference.
Yep. And with that, do we have any more super chats, Andre? Because we got
we do. We do.
We've got Dune news.
Ooh. Let's do a couple more super chats before we get into Dune. John Apocalypse says Suicide Squad box office predictions. I don't feel like making any predictions now and then. I look forward to seeing it on HBO Max, but that's me. How about you guys?
I'm going to predict a $65 million opening weekend.
I'd say between like 45 and 55, yeah.
That might be more accurate, but I think James Gunn is going to bring some butts in the seats. And
the Shark. As for me,
the Shark, and
James Gunn on the Shark.
We just lost script.
Yeah, he just... I was thinking.
Yeah, sorry, I don't know what happened there. But
yeah. Okay. Well, you're back again. That's the most important thing.
I think somewhere between 58 and 62 million.
Ooh, you're close. In between. You're playing the mid.
Yeah, I would. Well, I mean, if I were going to hit a specific number, I'd say 60 because I kind of feel like we've seen where these films are going to hit. So
here's my prediction for Andre. My prediction will be $42.4 million.
Okay, let's go with that.
Watch that be the most accurate one.
I get the credit if that's the most accurate one.
All right, we'll give you that one. You get the I fucking knew it for that one. But did we have any super chats we have to catch up on?
Yes, we had more
Dune stuff here.
Then we had Dash D's in reference to the earlier conversation. Please explain which NATO that is. It is confusing. And
that's true. The National Theaters Association is what I should have said.
Yeah, I was thinking whoa, NATO is talking out against Black Widow. That seems excessive. Well, that was my reaction for half a second.
Yeah, they were really mad. They were wondering if they needed to mobilize troops.
Yeah, exactly. And then Valiant Renegade says, just jumping back in, saw that article this morning when I got in the office. I'm guessing you guys are having the exact same reaction I did, laughing.
All day long.
And Willie Woodward says for $4.99, dude, Space Jam worked because of Right Man. He was the right man. He took what worked with Looney Tunes. This movie looked like Ready Player One. Dumb. And Pajori says for $5, Space Jam 2 was not made for kids, or it would not star a Chinese escort. I don't recall, but she may be one. Yeah, I don't know exactly who is, but this is a known thing in China. If you have huge Chinese stars, they may be asked to help out the CCP, let's say. And then, Tom, you have to introduce Rod one more time.
A super chat from the one and only Rod Thunderheart.
And he says, listening to everyone else's excitement over Space Jam 2 has my interest rapidly waning. However, free in a few months might be worthwhile. And then he followed that up a little bit later with, nah, Tom, you've convinced me. Won't be seeing it.
And,
well, I want to go
Rod Thunderheart, I hope you see a cardiologist, because if your heart's pounding like a thunderstorm, that might be worrisome, so I hope you're good.
Yeah. Well, he is actually dealing with hernia surgery, is he not?
Yeah, he had just recovered from surgery.
So he thunder rotted his heart right out of his chest.
Whew.
Oh yeah, rough times. And then David March says for $5 Canadian, the only good thing about this new movie is the website, which is based on the original GeoCities page. Gamer62589 says, remember, Pepe got axed all because of rabbit tits. Yeah. I feel I lost out of so much loony madness, but yeah. And Infinity Flare says for $5, I had the original Space Jam on throughout the weekend in a small hope that it would reach viewing numbers near or greater than Space Jam 2. F this movie. So yeah, that's I commend your attitude. And Gamer62589 also says Rick and Morty made an appearance in this. Were they in Space Jam? Well, maybe they were.
Yeah, we brought that up before, yeah.
Troy Paselli says for $5, everything I'm hearing about Space Jam is terrible. And I saw a headline that it nuked Black Widow from orbit. What does that say about Black Widow?
If that's nuking Black Widow from orbit, I don't see. That's the thing. There's no correlation between the two, really. Like Black Widow still could have made $60 million this weekend, and Space Jam could have still made the 30 it did. There's no reason that couldn't have happened.
Yeah, I agree completely. I don't think that one has anything to do with the other here. There was plenty of screens for both of them. I think that if there had been no new releases whatsoever this week, then Black Widow would have fallen exactly every bit as much. And likewise, if there was no holdovers from last week, then Space Jam would probably have formed pretty similar too. So I don't see how one really affected the other. I think that Black Widow failed to bring back audiences entirely on its own merits, or lack thereof. It's my views. Culture, do you think I'm way off, or could there be something to that?
I think he stepped away, but I think he'd agree that.
Yeah.
No, again, when you have I look at it this way. Generally, on an average box office weekend, they make from 60 to upwards of 120, $50 million if it's a real big movie dropping, right? So it doesn't matter who makes what. There's only that much money to go around, and if people aren't going, then that just means there's no interest. It has nothing to do with one movie killing another, unless you have, one movie taking $100 million at the box office. Then you have an argument to be made. If Space Jam came in and made $80 million like Black Widow did last weekend, that would be nuking it from orbit. Like, that would be obviously that Space Jam is soaking up the oxygen out of the room. In this case, though, there's plenty of oxygen left in the room. In fact, Culture pointed out that Black Widow expanded its theaters this last weekend. So, that does not compute. There's no, or at least in a sense that headline is completely bullshit, basically.
Yeah, pretty much. And then Pajori clarified when he was referring to Chinese escort, he was talking about LeBron. And I can agree with. That makes sense.
I showed your comic earlier too, Andre, so yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense. And then we had STR Red Wolf, who says for $5, as I said last week, NPR rated this as a vanity movie, and both LeBron and WB's part. Apparently, we need to refund Tom's money on how accurate that was. So, yeah.
Yeah, we actually grabbed that one.
Around.
So I think we're caught up around as long as we didn't miss any after the next one.
Okay, no, there's more after that.
Okay.
Hypergiver 2 said, are we sure R. Kelly isn't in this movie? Did you grab that one?
Yeah, we did. But it's a great punchline there.
And Dash Attack sounds like Monsters and Moron Mountain got lucky. This wasn't a real follow-up.
No comment.
Yeah. And Mr. Tickle Trunk says for $5, this is not Snake Eyes because there's no mystery. It's like an Indiana Jones movie without his whip or sane Charlie Sheen. It makes no sense.
Yeah.
And Wooly Woodward says for $4.99, I remember when Gunn got fired. He was going to be Marvel's space guy. Do you think Raimi is going to be Marvel's supernatural guy? I will say two things about that. First, I think that the firing of James Gunn destroyed the MCU. Because, you're right. He was going to be the space guy. And the moment that he got fired, that was all gone. I think we would be getting a far different and far better MCU than what we're currently getting had James Gunn not been fired. So I feel that we, the audience, lost out on that one. As for
Guardians of the Galaxy stuff is the last thing he's doing with Marvel, as far as I know.
Yeah, I know. So he's not coming back, and he was supposed to have been like the Kevin Feige of the Spaceways, and I think that could have been amazing. And we were robbed of that.
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
And as for the second part, if Sam Raimi is going to be their supernatural guy, I don't think so. I don't think that they would be able to lock him down for too long. But if he was, on paper, I'd be all for it.
Well, the thing is, though, what did I tell you, Andre, like right after all that got announced?
I don't remember. You tell me so many things.
Okay, well, basically, yeah. Well, it had to do with bringing Sam Raimi in. Like, you just don't bring him in just for a Doctor Strange movie.
No, but you do bring him in for like a huge Spider-Man connection thing.
Exactly. And I think I've heard rumors that he did have a lot of correspondence with Spider-Man 3, and who knows what's going to happen with Spider-Man 4 yet.
Yeah.
So we'll see. I have this, like, that was kind of my prediction, is this is going to be like this launching pad between the two, and he'll end up doing maybe Spider-Man 4, because they're talking some major Spider-Verse shit for live action movie leading into like a Sinister Six deal and all this shit. So that's why when I'm like, I'm not so sure the Disney deal's quite over yet. Like, I think Tom Roth will be more than happy to continue to rake in a guaranteed, box office success, as opposed to we might make $1 billion on this one, but
then again, we might like 300.
Exactly. Yeah.
And then you see how he has fared with his other genre properties, like that Stephen King thing, The Dark Tower. That didn't work out too well, now did it?
Oh, he killed that at its base. I mean, he didn't.
Wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah, I think that he's the kind of guy that he would be able to get his teeth into that, and he could deliver the macabre in a comfortable way for, or the supernatural in a comfortable way for Disney audiences, or whatever, Marvel audiences. I think he could probably do it.
Yeah, I said I would be all for it. So yeah. And then Shum says for $5.99, script: Doctor with Ford's face most likely put on his stuntman. What is the limit on doing that for the Academy before he would be ineligible for an award? Now, I think what he's trying to say, I'll put it in the private chat even, so you can see it for yourself.
I got distracted because I guess the stream's buffering. We dumped a bunch of viewers. Yeah, so there must be a region that's net just like went wonky.
Yeah.
Okay.
What happened?
Oh, I don't know. We just lost a bunch of fucking viewers in the stream.
Oh yeah, I see. We lost like 400 in a second there.
Yeah, like somewhere just died somewheres.
Oh wow!
Hopefully they've got a refresh and they'll be back. But
refresh, maybe an internet blackout somewhere.
Yeah, but anyway.
Oh, so they're not talking
you see in the private chat, it says there, script doctor with Ford's face most likely put on his stuntman. What is the limit on doing that for the Academy before he would be ineligible for an award? I don't think that he would qualify in any event, but let's go with the question.
Well,
which is basically, how much of the movie can they get away with having a stuntman on set and then basically deep faking his face onto it?
Well, the thing is, the stuntman's not saying any lines, or at least they're not using his stuff. If anything, what they would do is they'd be shooting Harrison Ford like they do with Robert Downey Jr. inside the Ironman helmet with a camera. He would do his performance there. Then they would just composite that face over top of the stunt double, so he's still acting. Yep. And it's just put onto a body double, which is, again, another technology that they used with the Wayans comedy Little Man. Yep. So he is still acting, but the problem is that, because the Academy has had an issue with computer-generated performers being voiced by other actors. Andy Serkis is a very good example of that, because he was amazing as Gollum, but they would never give him a nomination because they looked at it more as like a voice acting job as opposed to an acting job, which I think that that scrutiny is wrong. An actor's an actor. But it's not the same way for Ford at this point. Besides, I don't think you'd ever even be considered nominated these days for Indiana Jones.
Yeah, I don't think he's going to be nominated for anything either.
Lifetime Achievement Award.
Yeah, that's what he's going to get. I'll agree. He'll get that, but he's going to get that for his advanced age and not really for anything else. So yeah.
Yeah.
And then almost caught up here. Sent a diamond super sticker, and Cyber Soldier says. For $5, off topic, guys. According to the New York Post, Viacom CBS may be for sale. How do you
Yeah.
think it's going to change the streaming wars?
That's interesting. That was brought to my attention yesterday, I think.
Yeah, the New York Post is being hyperbolic.
But at the
It's not
same
for
time,
sale.
well,
It's really not. They were just doing normal negotiations. The other part too is that the only entities that could possibly buy Paramount, Viacom, CBS also have television networks, and that's a conflict of interest, so it can't be done.
well, and that's what we brought up before. Oh, go ahead, Culture.
No, I was just going to say they'd have to shed those interests. They could sell pieces of it. They'd have to shed the other interests, though, just like Disney did when they shed the sports entities from the Fox deal, et cetera, et cetera. So, and the TV stations, Sinclair. They went to Sinclair, I believe, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, no, I don't think that's actually the case right now. Some of the stuff that Paramount's doing is basically they're selling off things through licensing deals with other streaming services just to get in some liquid cash, and they're buying up a whole bunch of other properties. They're willing to have a whole bunch of debt for a long time in order to rebuild their company into something back to what it was in the early 2000s. That seems to be the long plan, and I think they can hold out for a few more years to get that going.
Yeah, that's kind of. Oh, go ahead, Script.
The other part too is that, like, in a perfect world, which unfortunately this would never happen, but in a perfect world, Shari Redstone should do basically an audit on some of the Secret Hideout and Bad Robot deals with regards to money, because if they found some cooked books and whatnot, then she can make a civil charge for conspiracy to cripple a studio in favor of those guys getting better deals elsewhere. But if that were to be revealed, then you would end up having those cases brought forward to the courts from every other studio in the industry, and it would just collapse the entire studio system at that point. So yeah, at this point right now, it's basically trying to build up other franchises in Paramount over a 5 to 10 year term, and hopefully recover and basically be in debt for about 20 years, but still be able to keep your head enough above water to be a player. They're thinking very long term right now, just with the stuff they're buying up and the people that they're talking to. So if they were to sell pieces of it, it would be quite a big surprise for a lot of people in town.
I have another prediction about who's going to go first as far as the next entity, but that I'm doing a video on that later this week, so I'm not going to tell you here. So
no, that's all right. We shall wait in anticipation and plug it when it's out. So just let us know, and you can come back and talk it up then.
You bet.
We all look. We all look greatly forward to it.
Sadly, we haven't recovered most of our audience.
Unfortunately,
what happened there?
Yeah, it definitely buffered because it hit me too, and I am not in Canada. So, but yeah, it was very odd. It buffered, and then it kicked back up, and then it said you'd only been streaming for a minute, and then I refreshed, and then it was back up to where it should be, well over 2, almost 3 hours now. But I do need to slip out. I've had a great amount of fun as usual. I love to hang out with you guys. It was great to see Script again. I miss him a lot. Don't get to spend time with him because he's busy doing real work. So, and beyond all that, guys, I hope everybody has a great day. I'll see you all very soon.
Yeah.
Yes, thanks for joining us. It's been a pleasure to have you on, everyone. If you haven't done so already, go check out Culture Casino. He makes some great content, has a great channel, some great analysis, and some great, really short news broadcasts to get everyone up to date with what's happening. So, yes, good times. Thanks for joining us, my friend.
No problem. I'll see you soon. Bye-bye.
Excellent. And with that, I'm just gonna. We are not. We got a couple of more super chats in here. Daniel says for $10, wouldn't it be great to go back to the days when monopolies were bad simply because of unfair market control, instead of them being bad because they were corporate Marxists? Well, one doesn't have to rule out the other, though. They can be bad for both reasons at the same time, surely.
I mean, there's a part of me that's like, when it comes to certain things like that, I'm all for capitalism. I think you should be able to, the sky's the limit. But at the same time, there has to be a fair and balanced way for competition to exist without it being snuffed out.
No third-party entity should be
Yeah.
trying to manipulate the market to make competition more available. But at the same time, no one entity should also be manipulating the market to make competition
Absolutely
not viable. Yeah, listen, it's an experiment right now, and it can't be. So far, nothing else has been presented that can adequately replace capitalism. So I'm very much pro-capitalism that way.
Yeah,
absolutely. And you know what? So are the Marxists. But yeah, companies like Hasbro. Did you cover that? By the way, that they have some very weird training of their employees. So much so that I honestly wouldn't feel too bad for them if G.I. Joe should somehow fail to live up to its full expectations. But we're not going to get into
he's
that.
more like a G.I. Ho at this point. But anyhow.
Also on that note, Melvin Belliard says for Belliard says for $20. Thank you so much. Snake Eyes was the best part of the two Joe movies because it was not only accurate to the character, but his sequences were the best.
I agree with that.
And then it continues, this version is a bastardization of the character. This has 95 Dread feel to it.
I mean, I get 95 Dread has a bad rep, but is it really that fucking bad? Really?
Compared? Not really. I mean, the parts where Stallone doesn't take off his helmet, that's pretty Dread.
I was like, there was some cool shit in there, and I thought like the production value and some other elements of it I thought were pretty cool. The costume is like almost spot on, really.
Well,
parts of it,
minus a few, parts of it anyway. I mean, I mean, here's my point: is you can compare it to in a way like how Subdued, in a way, what's his face? I keep forgetting his name. Damn it! In the newer movie,
Carl Urban.
Carl Urban's version was a bit more subdued, but like to me, looking at like Sylvester Stallone when he's in full regalia, looks almost like the comic version in my like if I had to pick one that was looked a little more comic accurate. To me, it feels like that one, but it also has a cartoony element to it.
Yeah,
too,
it's just the shoulder pads. That's the thing, which is like in some ways more accurate.
Right.
Is that
and the blue stands out a little bit more, I feel like, and it does almost have like that kind of comic book feel to it, but that's just me aesthetically.
But the rest is actually it's the urban suit, which is the more comic book.
Is it really? I have to look.
Yeah. Look at compare the comic and then compare urban and then compare Dread.
I don't know, for some reason. Go ahead,
you'll be amazed at how much closer the urban suit actually is. I mean, the helmet, for instance,
bang on,
it's a 100% replica of the comic. They did significant, like they inverted loads of it for the Stallone costume, whereas it's an absolute comic book accurate replica, and also the fabric, everything is closer in the urban movie. Even the detail of the knee pads and the elbow pads, which are green, they're really dark green, so you can barely tell, but they're still green.
I guess I'll really have to look, but like I was saying, just the aesthetic to me felt more comic booky in the original.
Outside of the costume, the world, Mega City 1, the aesthetic of the city.
Maybe that added to it. I don't know.
Yeah, Mega City 1 in 95 was like...
I haven't watched either.
I thought it was cool.
But it was really good.
I've got your 4K steelbook of Dread still sitting on my shelf waiting for you yet.
Oh, nice, cool. Yeah, look forward to it. But also, the one thing
I haven't opened it yet
about the 95 movie, the villains and the robots. I mean, like the
ABC Warriors,
the Mean Machine and the ABC Warrior, that can never be bettered. I mean, there's no way to do the Mean Machine and the ABC Warrior better than what was done in that movie. I submit it can't be done better. That was perfection in the Stallone movie.
Yeah. Well,
I mean, you could probably do if you were to take some of the mix and match both those films, you could definitely like elevate a Dread sequel a little bit more. But that takes a heck of a financial backing to do so. Because again, it's a lot of practical effects, and then a lot of compositing stuff, and then just you already got the costume pretty much from Dread, and you've also got the tone from Dread, which is I think really great tone.
Yeah,
But yeah, you just throw in
fantastic
some of
one.
those fantastical visuals from the 2080 comic, because again, the 2080 comic also had some comedy and satire in there as well.
Yeah.
They didn't quite translate that effectively, I would say, in the 95 version. But
They did at times. There was
at
one
times.
thing which was really good, and that's
Oh, the parking ticket, yeah, where they're gonna they blow up the car.
yeah, okay, that was one. But what I'm thinking more about is like this robot in the background in the beginning of the movie that goes around the hallways and is selling food, and it says, "Eat recycled foods. Recycled food is good for the environment and okay for you."
Yeah,
that was spot on.
Yeah.
That was pretty spot on. So yeah,
and Judge Dredd hates robots too. Like, he really hates robots.
Oh yeah, especially if they're his servant robots that never appeared.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, such a shame that we're never getting a sequel or that TV series, which is destined to fail because the producer behind it is making the wrong series, as we covered with the Quarter Black Garrett last week. The problem with the Judge Dredd TV series is, instead of making a Judge Dredd TV series, they're making the equivalent of a Gotham series.
Yeah.
Like they're making a Mega City 1 series, guest appearing Judge Dredd every once in a blue moon. And it's completely fucking idiotic. I don't know what the hell is wrong with him, with Jason Kingsley, who's the owner of Dredd and behind that idea.
I don't know.
He's a smart man, but not for that.
Well, you guys were mentioning the character who's the murderer. That's the kid that Judge Dredd doesn't believe, who grows up into an adult. I mean,
PJ Maybe.
Yeah, PJ Maybe. You can make a show about him, but the thing is, like, it's gonna run its course pretty quickly.
Really
like,
fast.
You just can't. I mean, I'm trying to think of all the other characters, because Mega City 1 has a slew of interesting characters that you could kind of focus on for a show.
You have Otto Sump, but what they would do, I guess, is probably something more like The Pit, where you follow like a squadron of judges in like one,
like a station from Central or something. Yeah,
like a sector house.
Yeah, like a sector. But the other part too is, like, you'd have to do it as a mini series, 6 episodes, and then the last episode is when Judge Dredd comes in and then just owns the rest of the show. But even then, it's like, it's kind of deflating. You're kind of sucking all the winds out of your sails for that first half of it, because it's all about just waiting for Judge Dredd, and it's got to really, stick the landing. But no, I mean that the reason we have the series that focuses on Judge Dredd is because he's the most interesting of the judges.
Absolutely. Tom, you teased some Dune news here earlier. Did you cover that in my absence, or are we getting there now?
No, we're just getting to it, because we got to get to it. We have a couple super chats. We want to grab those, but otherwise we can jump into this for a little bit here quick. We've got some info on when we could possibly see the next Dune trailer. We also have some character posters to look at too here in a moment. Our next sure to be spicy look at this year's Dune, this comes from Inverse, by the way, is coming to theaters in a manner reminiscent of sneak peeks for one of Warner Brothers' most groundbreaking franchises, Christopher Nolan's Batman trilogy. Will this new preview bring us the reckoning of Arrakis? Sorry, I just read that wrong. On July 21st and 22nd, that's this weekend, new footage from Dune is expected to be screened for the public at IMAX theaters. This footage will only exist in theaters, though a new trailer will follow and debut online as well, which means there's going to be footage shown only in a trailer in the theater that will not be online. And we even got a little exclusive look here thing. I don't know if we should play it, but
let's not. But let's just have a look at what we can ourselves here.
Yeah, there's a little bit more footage in there. And then, at select IMAX theaters around the world, new Dune footage will be screened for people in those theaters. To be clear, this is a teaser event. It is open to the public, and you can find a list of participating theaters in the article. Some of them are sold out of free tickets.
Sold out of free tickets, because I'm checking my local IMAX theater here right now.
So that's kind of a good sign for this, though. I mean,
I've heard this before, that there's like this IMAX preview thing.
Yeah, I remember bringing this up like a couple months ago or something like that, if I remember right. So yeah, we're gonna get a trailer this weekend, and we got this exclusive look. So hey, interesting. And to go along with that, we've got some character posters to look at if you'd like to check those out.
Yeah, let's bring them up.
Boom. Here we go. We start. Whoop. Fuck off. Let's start with. Is this coming up on screen here? Let me see.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's see if I can make this a little bit bigger. Ooh, that's kind of like our first real good look at him.
Yeah, that's the best looks so far of
Baron.
Baron Vladimir Harkonnen. So
It doesn't
yeah,
make it any bigger. It just is an asshole. All right. Well, sorry. That's the closest I can get to it.
I'm so excited to see his interpretation of the role.
Yeah. All right. Let me see if I can get to the next one here. We've got Zendaya.
Yeah, I feel I've seen that before.
Yeah, nothing new there. Oscar Isaacs as Dune Leto. And we got Jason Momoa as Duncan Idaho. We have Josh Brolin as Gurney. We have Rebecca Ferguson as Lady Jessica. And they're still advertising it on both, so they must have made a deal with Legendary. Must have paid them off.
Yeah, looks like it.
And Timothy Chalamet, Javier Bardem is Stilgar. And there we go. So there's our look at Dune, and you have the chance to see it in IMAX, a sneak preview in IMAX this weekend. So looking forward to those who can get a chance to see it and explain to me what it is, because I probably won't get. There is an IMAX about an hour here from here, but I doubt it. I have to check and see if it's on the list. But yeah, so there you go. What's your reaction to that, Andre?
Well, it looks good. I'm just annoyed that there does not appear to be any screening of that footage near me, so I don't get to see it.
Well, maybe you'll find it washed up on a bay somewhere.
Yeah, well, we shall see.
Surf sharks like to have positive interactions with things like that.
Yeah, this is true. This is very true. But yeah, I don't think it's quite the same with IMAX footage, not on an IMAX screen, though.
Very true. They make that a little difficult, yeah.
Yeah. And when it's not on the local IMAX screen, then that's a bit of a bother. But I'm not the only Dune fan here. Script, what did you think?
Well, I mean, I like some of the images there. The makeup for the Baron looks great. I've read the script. I think the script is fantastic. I hope the pacing of the movie matches the script, so that you have a really engaging story for this first part. I'm still because where I am located, there is an IMAX theater, but it is still closed off at the moment right now because of the current thing going on right now in our province. So I don't know when I'm going to be able to see this yet, but I'm really, really looking forward to this film, and so that's basically it. I'm just excited. It's been a while since I've actually wanted to see how this gets executed and just enjoy the experience. But looks like I might have to see it, unfortunately, much later than a lot of other people.
Yeah, well, we shall see. And then Daniel says, it's easy to think Andre is just a smooth, sophisticated voice of Midnight's Edge. But he drops a nerd bomb and describes Dredd's knee pads in minute detail. Yeah, there is that.
That's the shit we do.
Yeah, that's how we roll. And Mr. 19 said, would it have made more sense to see Black Widow's backstory through a Hawkeye movie? You know what? I think so. Yeah, now at this point, I think it would have. Script, what about you?
Yeah, because it'd be like a buddy film. So you have it in the ways of Hawkeye's as a shield agent is assigned to take out the Black Widow that's been messing around in Europe or throughout the world, and what ends up happening is a formation of a friendship, and then the whole turn to take out Dreykov, and that would have been that's a better premise. Because again, they're a pair. Like in every movie that once from the Avengers on, like those two are kind of really tight in all their scenes and whatnot. So yeah, you'd want to play with that chemistry and have that fun in a Black Widow movie.
Yeah, hell yeah. You could do like a contemporary Hawkeye thing with Black Widow flashbacks. That's how you tell that story. You also show like his loss and everything. Why didn't Marvel think of that? I mean, Mr. 19 thought about it.
Well, the thing is, I would avoid flashbacks because those usually make a story a crutch. But just have it take place in the real time of that year, and be it just an origin film. I mean, Scarlett Johansson has not physically really changed much in the last 8 years, so you can still kind of get away with that. And crap, what's his name? Is escaping me at the moment. The guy who plays Hawkeye.
Renner.
Oh, Jeremy Renner. Yes, Jeremy Renner has always looked like he's been in his 50s since the Hurt Locker. So yeah, you don't really have to worry about.
He has looked like he was in his 50s since he was in his 30s. So yeah, some people
pretty much like the youngest he ever looked is. Yeah, the youngest he ever looked was in Senior Trip, and that was like he was like 25.
He still looked like he was older than the rest of the kids.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And then says, I tried so hard to get an IMAX.
Oh, that sucks.
Tried so hard. Well, did you get it or didn't you? Because the smiley there indicates that you did, but the rest of the sentence indicates you didn't.
Yeah, but, tried in the past tense. Yeah.
Yeah, tried
and
failed is what it looks like. But yeah, well, fingers crossed for everyone.
We'll keep an eye out for your next. You don't have to super chat us again. Just let us know if you did or didn't.
Yeah. And Melvin Belliard clarifies for $10. And to clarify what I wrote, I actually like 95 Dreads. I saw it a ton. But what I mean is it is not accurate and it definitely won't be as fun as 95 Dreads. Right. Yes, I agree with that. I also don't think that Hawkeye is going to be anywhere. Sorry, not Hawkeye, but like that G.I. Joe thing. Snake Eyes. Eye something. Some animal eye.
Why do you think I said blind? I went right to the eyes. You know,
it's like not going to be as fun as the 95 Dread. Yeah, no, I agree.
That's stupid because snakes are blind as shit.
That depends on the snake, though.
True, but for the most part, they're not. Even if they do have vision, they have shit vision because it's usually side vision anyway. So that's it's anyway. Again, let's not get into that all.
Depends on the individual snake.
True.
But in terms of vision. And aiming for shooting a bow and arrow or crossbow or whatever, you'd definitely be better off as Hawkeye than Snake Eyes.
That's true.
For sure.
Same thing with the Snake Eyes thing. I don't
know. But yeah, Melvin, I agree completely that the 95 Dread is a very entertaining movie, and I would not see it unmade, although it didn't do any favors for the Judge Dredd.
You give him a cool name like a wrestler, like Quiet Thunder.
Yeah.
Or Rod Thunderheart.
And then, let's see, I think, and then Super Cartridge says for 50 Norwegian krona. Say what you want about the Loki series, but the soundtrack by Natalie Holt is amazing, especially the TVA and Green Loki themes. Well, the soundtrack was good. I'm just so annoyed that they didn't release the entirety of the Norwegian language song. They just put out the TV edit. That was annoying. So I hope that the writer and maker of that song will release their own version of it in some capacity at some point, at some stage there.
Yeah, and I mean, honestly, I was kind of surprised Andre gave it a pass at the end, though, still just the same. I mean, you didn't give it a glowing review by any means, but...
I thought, no, like the final, I liked the final episode. I mean, like the final episode.
I didn't watch it, but just from, editing your review, I'm like, well, kind of like...
the final episode answers some questions, but also asks a lot more questions.
That's exactly what I was thinking. Thank you, script. Thank you. Yes, as usual, you say it better than I can think it.
Yeah. I mean, I wasn't thrilled by it. I thought there's... like I was saying actually in the Infinity stream last night, and I recommend go rewatch that because it was great conversation. But there's the conflict of that scene is that Sylvie wants to kill the guy, and Loki's like, maybe we shouldn't, and his argument is that because there could be something worse. But really, with Loki, his entire motivation is power, even at this point, and his argument should be, if we're in control, we can go back in time and fix your life. Because that would be far more tempting and something that would be better for Sylvie, because it's part of the revenge. It's like, you ruined my life, so I'm going to kill you. But it's like, well, if you could have the power to go back and change things, which you would, which is what the premise of that scene is all about, wouldn't that be more? That should technically be more tempting. But they didn't present that idea because they knew if they did, the character's natural motivation would be, oh, so I could replace this guy, he who has remained. I could restore my childhood with my family within that timeline because I'm in control now, and I would still be in power at the end. It's like there's so many more beneficial aspects to that, but that doesn't get them to the point where they need to have the multiverse of madness and the Far From Home and all that other stuff. So they really just shot themselves in the face with their own setup and premise, and that's why I was not really too thrilled with this show, personally.
Yeah. Well, we'll see what they do. Personally, I was just happy that it delivered some promise. We got some new reveals. They actually it just did so much better than the previous two series, which were an extended freaking disaster here.
Oh yeah,
and
worse than a bunch. Yeah.
Yeah.
Pete Dencott says, so nobody has seen the trailer. Yeah, it just dropped. We were going to try and watch it, but Andre didn't want to get a copyright claim. So, we'll probably check it out after this show. It looks like a teaser for a teaser, though, is what I'm thinking. So,
well, if it's a
teaser for a trailer, you know what I mean.
Well, then who cares?
But we'll see. And we got Willie Woodward coming in here with one right now. Supposedly on Thursday, the Spider-Man 3 trailer drops. I hope so, since I can't wait. No lie, I hope there's a stream. As far as an entire stream, like Thursday we do Meet. I'm sure we'll talk about it on that night. And we'll probably talk about it on the Friday morning show as well. So yeah, I mean, I don't think we'll actually do an entire stream just for that, though. I very rarely have we, outside of maybe a little 10-minute deal, have we ever really done anything like we don't usually do like separate reactions like that. Do we anymore, Andre? We really never have.
Well, we did for Dune. Remember, we were in a completely different stream when there was some Dune stuff that broke. Don't remember exactly what it was.
Very rarely.
And then we hopped straight into a Doom stream right after that.
But see, that almost feels like an exception to the rule, too.
That's an exception. Yes, absolutely.
There's a few things here at Midnight's Edge that when they happen, Dread being one of them, since you guys are just talking about it, is always Conan, of course. Like something like that generally happens. He-Man, of course, Dune. Those seem to be Punisher too. It seems like, your main go-tos. Other than that, so like, yeah, I mean, anything happens with those, generally we're right on top of it. I know that.
Yeah.
And you're right. We do associate with Spider-Man a little bit too because of the previous reporting. So we'll have to see
some history, which was pretty spot on.
I'll tell you what, Willie. I'll tell you what. If there's something amazingly mind blowing in that trailer we didn't expect, maybe, just maybe.
Yes, and then I believe we are fully caught up with the super chat.
We still have 999 people watching, we did. So before we go, we have one or two more things here.
Yes, we have a couple of other things here because we want to thank you so much for our super chats, but there are more people out there who are in need of some assistance, including a good friend in
very good friend and close friend of the channel. Yeah. Gary Kissel, of course, not Jerry, as Andre keeps forgetting, but
yes,
Gary is a very good friend of the channel, a very good friend of the community, as you just said. Not only that, a very good personal friend of, I know myself, and I think you know him pretty good too, right, Script?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, so like this was something that was sudden that happened. Gary's family had a house fire that affected not only where they live, but Gary's entire artwork was pretty much lost that he'd been working on recently and a lot of stuff from the past. So he has to basically start over again with a lot of the stuff he's been working on for the last few months and almost probably even years to a point with some
things. Stuff that he had for decades.
Yeah, I mean,
backed up and everything, all gone.
Now, of course, money isn't going to make any of that come back. But what Gary doesn't have now is a lot of the time he used to, all the work he has done, for the work that he'd been paid for already and stuff like that. He's got to redo it all now. The stuff that he was still outstanding on. So like between that and just getting the family back together and all that kind of stuff. And, they're just, the pop culture minefield's just getting started on YouTube. So they're still up and coming. So that's not necessarily in any place yet to help Gary and his family out right now. So anything you guys can do to help, would be greatly appreciated. Head on over to the link. We got it in the chat right now. I'm sure the mods are also joining in with that. If there's anything you guys can do, even if it's just a little bit, everything helps, and it will hopefully help Gary get things back in order so he can get back on his feet again. Because this is something that it happens. I've dealt with 2 house fires in my life, and one that completely took away everything we ever had. If it wasn't for the outreach of the community, we would have never been able to do what we did and able to, find a place to stay and have clothes on our back and all that kind of stuff. So, these kind of things happen, and there's no going back. You just got to keep moving forward. So hopefully the best thing we can do is help make that a little bit easier on Gary and his family. So I don't know, Andre, if you want to say anything either, but our script, but yeah, I think that's the best I can say on that.
Yeah, no, I just want to say he's a good friend, and any support will be most appreciated to a member of the community.
I reinforce that absolutely. I've grown to really like Gary.
Yeah.
I actually commissioned him for an art piece that I put on my Twitter that you can go see. And he's really, I mean, he's professional. He's fun to work with, but he's also cheeky. He's got a lot of dirty jokes and stories. So he's a great guy. So if you can help out in any way, like just share the GoFundMe, and that's the best that we can ask of anyone.
Yeah, great artist. And we also have another person who's not necessarily in the community per se, but author J.W. Rinsler is suffering, I believe, from pancreatic cancer. So that's another person who could use some help in the community. I think he's even been on a few streams with other people before. I'm not 100% on that, but yeah, if you guys can also help the family out there, that is also something that was brought to our attention by Stephanie and Stephanie Janicek, and hopefully you guys can help out with that too. And then Last Millennial sent in a $4.99 super chat and says, "Have a great Monday, you three." Well, thank you so much, Last Millennial. We're glad to see you here. And we also had another one from Sugar Cartridge, who said, well, I'll let you do this one, Andre, since it's from a fellow.
Yeah, no, you do it. I want to hear you do it.
Okay. Sugar Cartridge says, with 50 Norwegian krona, "How do you think the upcoming Netflix Terminator anime series will go? Hope they don't continue the Dark Fate timeline." Oh, and and I know I did. Andre, Ender said, though, dang. How bad did I do?
No, not too bad. Oh, and Andre, Arna ser deg is what he's saying. Arna sees you. That's our PM. The Norwegian Prime Minister sees you.
Ah.
There's an animated Netflix series, Terminator.
Yeah, that's news to me.
I heard about this. This came out. I didn't know how. I thought it was just in preliminaries. I didn't know for sure. Like, it kind of went. There was something else news-wise that was going on at the same time, so it kind of got buried. This was like a month ago, maybe 2 months ago at the most. Again, sometimes these things kind of come across the transom and it's during other shit. But I'm not. It's a Netflix animated series, so it's kind of on that level of, probably like the Sarah Connor Chronicles. I don't know how much it will take up as far as canon wise.
I can tell you that right away. None at all.
Well, right. Like, I don't know where it's going to start. I hardly doubt it's going to have anything to do with anybody involved with the productions of the other stuff. I highly doubt they're going to get Arnold Schwarzenegger coming in and doing a voice or something. As far as the politics, considering it's on Netflix and what we're seeing out of He-Man, probably. Because I'm starting to see that Netflix is taking a lot more control over their properties. But that'll be interesting to see how much push they get for the Conan deal, because I'll definitely want to hear from Frederick on that.
Yeah. Well,
but Terminator is a lost franchise. It's dead, kids. I mean, the only person who could possibly come in and bring Terminator back from the dead would be like somebody like Neil Blomkamp, maybe.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah.
So like you have to have something new to do with it, and all their other new attempts are really just derivative.
Well, Neil's smart enough to where he could find a way, like he did with Alien, to kind of just be like, no, we're just going to ignore this and we're going to do this. Yeah. Or he'd come up with an almost original concept. He'd be like, we're going beyond the Arnold Schwarzenegger, the Sarah Connor shit. He'd come up with something that would be like set way in the future or something like that. So he'd come up with something else, out of the box. I have a feeling. Like, the sad part is the third movie wasn't horrid. It was decent enough. And the McG movie actually had the right idea of getting out of the past and getting into the fucking future. Get away from all this shit. Go have fun in the future. You could do all kinds of stories in the future war.
But then they did it completely wrong.
They went and fucked it up.
Those were technically prequels to the original series, to the first two.
In a way, yes. Yeah. But no, that's if they do like a Future War animated series, that could possibly work. What do you think, Andre, on that note?
I think the only thing that's going to work is a prequel. That's the Future Wars that leads right up into the first movie.
Right.
The problem with Salvation was that it wasn't a prequel. It was a sequel in that it was another Future War, not the one that and that's how they got screwed up there completely.
I'm sitting here debating for years which one was worse, Sega Genesis or Dark Fate, but I think Dark Fate.
They were all equally bad. They were all the trilogy of failed Terminator trilogy starters. And then, before we quit here, yes. Black Wolf Inc. says, any news on Doomcock's The Future Ruler of Earth Star Wars rumor about the sequel trilogy being Thanos snapped? Actually, here's the thing. I've been busy with other matters. I have some emails, I have some information, but I don't have it yet. But we will be having a Star Wars video of some kind over the course of this week. There is some
moving and shaking going on, I've heard.
Yeah,
but again,
it's moving and shaping, but I have to check with sources and do some cross-referencing here and there before I dare comment on it. So just watch this space. We'll have a video in the next few days. Before then, I'm not fully informed on the situation and would rather not comment at this time.
There you go. And yeah, I don't have anything else to really go on other than that either. It's just I've heard there's a lot of moving and shaking going on. But
yeah,
I wouldn't expect... Okay, here's the thing. I wouldn't expect them to just flat out delete anything. What they may do is leave a loophole in there that you can ignore it. But at this point, we've gotten to this point where, shows like Mandalorian and stuff like that don't even really rely all that much on the sequel trilogy. They have a few calls to it here and there. But what I've been hearing out of Obi-Wan and some of this other stuff, they're going way back to the other, they're going back to old school Star Wars shit, guys. I mean, in some respects. There's some stuff coming out of Obi-Wan that I'm just like, wait a minute here. This is if they do it right, it could work. Otherwise, it's going to be a complete and utter fucking disaster. So I don't know what to think at this point. I'm not going to get my hopes up. I was one of those who was like, yeah, I can see where they're going, and it's nice we got Luke on the apology tour, but I wasn't one who was getting out of my seat and jumping up and down. It was more like I couldn't believe they actually did it. It was my reaction because I kind of knew it was coming in a way. Because, we heard it, but yeah. So we'll see how it goes. Oh, she did get 2 passes. There you go.
Yes, awesome, brilliant. Got tickets for the Dune.
You will have to report back to us immediately.
Yes. And with that, I believe we are fully caught.
We are indeed, and I want to thank everybody
for joining us. If you want to smash that like button, that would be excellent.
And it looks like you have a couple choices. You can either go check out Gary. I'll share the link. He's got a nooner going on right now. Or you can go and check out Az and RMB. And either one you go to, if you happen to, just let them know that we sent you. We like to let everybody know. It looks like Jesse's streaming right now, too. He's a good friend of ours. He's on Meet and stuff like that. He's part of the crew, so you can check him out as well. Other than that, was there anything you guys had to plug real quick before we take off and check out the Koalas in the Rain?
No.
Okay, let's go. 1, 2, 3, Koalas in the Rain, kids. Where is it? There it is.
Koalas in the rain, koalas in the rain, no fucks given. Koala, koala, koalas in the rain, koalas in the rain, no fucks given. Koala, koala, koalas in the rain.